What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2cc Chapter 29 Whitebeard is scared. What kind of monster is Su Chen? Is he really a human? A huge rotating wheel appeared out of nowhere, then it started to spin rapidly. This is a special existence that can only be seen from Su Chen's perspective. Above, just like before, it appeared at the end of the 10 days. The characters and their responses. As long as the pointer on the turntable stops at the corresponding position, Su Chen can get a powerful response on that position. It's just different from the last time. The sage art position that Su Chen drew that had the break all laws echo owned by Chao Jiajin was now covered in a golden color. There are 3 question marks clearly displayed on it. It seems that if Su Chen draws this position again, it will trigger a special reward. But now Su Chen is completely unable to concentrate on this turntable. The countdown is over. Prolonged hypoxia and lack of blood supply to the body. Su Chen's brain is rapidly dying. Even though he copied Momosagi's strength, he was not one of those monsters on the sea, but an ordinary person. Isn't it over yet? Why does the lottery take so long? Su Chen felt his consciousness was about to disappear. Endless darkness surged towards him again. He subconsciously asked the system. System, how much life do I have left? Su Chen had a premonition that he would faint again this time. I'm afraid I'm really dead, host. Your lifespan changed significantly after your head was chopped off by Whitebeard. Your remaining lifespan is 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. At the same time, on the bow deck of the pirate ship, Whitebeard had already grabbed Su Chen's head in his hand. He looked at the head in his hand, which had almost completely lost its life. There was only indifference and cold murderous intent in his eyes. What Su Chen did had already violated his bottom line. Even if Su Chen had not killed Marco and Ace before, just based on the fact that he wants to kill Diamond Joes, there is no possibility of reconciliation in the conflict between Whitebeard and Su Chen. Even though Su Chen had turned into a cold corpse at this moment, the severed heads were already caught in his hands. But Whitebeard still had no intention of letting Su Chen go. The moment when Su Chen's head collided with the bow deck, nothing happened obviously. However, the powerful observation hockey in Whitebeard's body suddenly sounded a warning. It seemed as if it was constantly reminding Whitebeard that something big was about to happen. But after all, the observation hockey does not have independent wisdom and thinking, and cannot clearly inform Whitebeard of the major events that are about to happen. Although Whitebeard knew that something bad might happen at this moment, he did not know what big thing might happen next. It will appear in a minute, a day, or a month. I don't know what this big event is about. Because the alarm from the observation hockey was issued only after Su Chen's head touched the bow deck. So just in case, Whitebeard had to crush Su Chen's head. Destroy it. Whitebeard's voice was cold. Powerful spatial vibrations began to condense from his hands. It turned out that he had activated the effect of the tremor fruit. Even if Su Chen copied Momosagi Gion's quasi-general strength, he would still be turned into a bloody mist by Whitebeard's destructive power. But what Whitebeard didn't know was, he chose to use the power of the tremor fruit, rather than directly using his powerful physical abilities, to crush Su Chen's head. It would be the decision he would regret the most for a long time in the future, at least before the war at the top. The ground began to shake, but this is not the vibration from the tremor fruit. It came from far away. Boom. Bonero Island. There was a terrifying vibration in the distant sky. Golden beams of light, crimson flames, and azure blue flames erupted at this moment. On the ground under the pirate ship, countless pirate crew members were also attracted by this shock. There was quite a bit of commotion. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed, and he knew that something big might have happened in the distance. Is it possible that what I saw and heard was the source of the explosion? Forget it for now. The most important thing now is to crush this guy Su Chen's head. Nip all unknown dangers in the cradle. That's the most important thing now. Boom boom boom. Terrifying concussive energy exploded in Whitebeard's palm. It went directly towards Su Chen's entire head. Su Chen's eyes were still closed tightly, not noticing at all that the power of destroying everything was coming towards him. There was still that faint smile on the corner of his mouth. Click. The sound of bones breaking in Whitebeard's hands exploded. Was Su Chen's head smashed by him? Why didn't it turn into a bloody mist? Logically speaking, Su Chen's head is in his hand. It should have turned into nothingness. Why didn't the feeling in my hand change at all? I was still holding something similar to a head. This made Whitebeard a little confused. He subconsciously looked at Su Chen's head. It doesn't matter if it's unbearable. At first glance, Whitebeard felt a chill rising from the soles of his feet and strayed to his tinling cap. This is an emotion he has never had before in his decades at sea. That is an emotion called fear. Whitebeard's eyes reflected the situation in his hands. Although the skin and eyeballs of Su Chen's head burst at the same time due to the powerful destructive energy of the shock fruit. But countless fluorescent energy emerged from the inside of his head. It turned into countless rejuvenating powers and continued to repair Su Chen's head. Su Chen's head. It seems that they are trying to resurrect Su Chen. How could Whitebeard, who had witnessed this horrific spectacle with his own eyes, not be shocked? His head was cut off, and his head was grabbed by Whitebeard and violently shocked. Even if Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, were to have his head cut off and be treated like this, he would probably die. In such a perverted situation, Su Chen's head was buried. The life energy that was almost extinguished, it is spreading rapidly now. But Whitebeard quickly came to his senses. Seeing the condition of Su Chen's head at this moment, he immediately understood. It is absolutely impossible to let Su Chen continue to recover like this. This is a terrifying energy that makes people palpitate. Click, click, click. At this moment, the space is like a broken mirror, with several broken traces appearing. Shocking energy burst out from his palm again and bombarded Su Chen's recovering head. This time, Whitebeard didn't hold anything back. The terrifying energy came into contact with the recovering Su Chen's head. The skin and flesh tissue that had just been restored were shattered into bloody foam again. And Su Chen's skull had no ability to resist at all. He didn't even hold on for half a breath before he turned into a burst of powder and dissipated. Whitebeard's brows were furrowed at this moment, his eyes extremely solemn. He stared at the position of Su Chen's head in his hand. This attack, even if the Kazuki clan creates the historical text stone tablet that cannot be destroyed. Whitebeard was so confident that he carved out a small corner for it. Under the blessing of this terrifying power, after all, it is impossible for Su Chen to have the ability to attempt resurrection. This time, a fierce man jumped up from the ground. Jumped to the bow deck, next to Whitebeard. The person who came was none other than Diamond Josie. He had a very panicked expression on his face and said quickly, "Dad, something big seems to have happened over at Bonero Island. This movement sounds like Brother Marco's Phoenix power. He is fighting with someone." Diamond Josie just finished what he was about to report, and then he suddenly raised his head. When he raised his head, Diamond Josie saw a sight he would never forget. He subconsciously took a step back, but there was no way to retreat, and he fell directly onto the deck. The pupils shrank suddenly, and the legs could not stop trembling. He pointed his finger forward and wanted to say something, but he was too frightened to say a word. Reflected in his eyes, it is an extremely weird, extremely absurd, and extremely terrifying picture. The sky suddenly became gloomy, and a sound like a loud bell resounded throughout the sky at this moment. I heard the echo of Tian Xing Jian, Chapter 30. The situation takes a turn for the worse. Ace and Marco's lives are in danger. Whitebeard is anxious. What a weird scene. What a horrifying scene. At this moment, Su Chen's head broke free from Whitebeard's hands without any warning. Just floating in the air out of thin air, a strange fluorescence appeared from inside his head. And this fluorescence is still getting brighter. Countless pieces of flesh, blood, tendons and bones slowly condensed in midair. Then came the internal organs, embedded in the flesh, blood, tendons and bones. In the shocked eyes of Whitebeard and Diamond Joe's, Su Chen's body was recovering at an incredible speed. It took only 2 or 3 breaths. Su Chen's body was completely restored. Even when Su Chen came here, his legs had already been amputated. It is also under this self-healing ability that it recovers perfectly. Whitebeard's eyes were solemn, and he subconsciously used his observation haki. He reached towards the ground, where Su Chen's body was originally in the wheelchair. He was shocked to find the body with its head cut off. Still there. Even the blood from the broken neck wound has not stopped flowing. What kind of terrifying ability does Su Chen have? Whitebeard took a half step back in shock, then he remembered that Diamond Joe's was still beside him. Did he just come to report something to me? Let's ignore it for now, after all, this is in front of my own children. Whitebeard must not show any sign of cowardice, he must play the role of an invincible and courageous father. The scene caused by Su Chen's self-recovery was indeed very strange. But so what? After all, it's just self-treatment. In the new world, there are many strong people who use life return to achieve self-healing. Su Chen now is nothing more than the return of a more powerful life. Without energy replenishment, Su Chen's life is just a lingering one. Whitebeard thought to himself. The power of the tremor fruit in his hand explodes again. This time, he even added Naginata Murakumo. The combination of the two created a terrifying force. Without any pause, it went straight into the air, chopped towards Su Chen. Su Chen was still hovering calmly in the air. At this moment, he had not regained consciousness yet, facing Whitebeard's terrifying attack. Naturally, there is no ability to dodge. Swish, Tenmayan's blade directly cut through Su Chen's flesh. Below his heart, a huge incision of 30 centimeters was made. Split Su Chen's entire body into 2. But this is not the end yet. The next moment, Whitebeard came directly in front of Su Chen. The big hand reached out to the huge wound on Su Chen's body and directly grabbed Su Chen's heart. With a puff, Su Chen's heart was directly exploded by Whitebeard and dissipated into blood mist. The heart was caught and exploded. Su Chen's body was suspended in the air, like a puppet with its strings cut. They fell directly onto the deck at the bow like 2 pieces of meat. The fluorescence in the body showed no signs of dissipating. Sure enough, It only took half a breath. The upper part of Su Chen's body began to heal itself again. See this situation. Whitebeard's face looked gloomy, as if water could be squeezed out of it. What kind of ability does this kid Su Chen have? Just now, a huge sound resounded across the sky. Is the so-called echo of heaven's movement also related to Su Chen? There are so many things about Su Chen that Whitebeard cannot understand. He had clearly fought on this sea for decades, but at this moment he saw all kinds of strange phenomena happening to Su Chen. But he is like an ignorant baby, especially now, facing the constant resurrection of the dead. And no matter how he is killed, Su Chen can be resurrected quickly. Whitebeard only felt as if he had punched with all his strength onto soft cotton. It made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Damn it. Whitebeard cursed inwardly. Turning around, he looked at Diamond Joes, who had jumped onto the deck and was so frightened by the scene that he was speechless. Josie, what exactly do you want to report to me? I don't like your cowardly look, being scolded by Whitebeard. Diamond Joes finally came to his senses. Seeing the extremely strange scene emanating from Su Chen, there was no sign of it spreading. And the old man with white beard has killed Su Chen again. Only then did his mood calm down a little, and he struggled to get up from the ground. Said to the old man with white beard, Dad, you know, I still have the lifecards of Ace and Marco. You should have noticed the horrific earthquake in the distance just now. That should be the terrifying aftermath of a battle between two powerful men. I clearly discovered that the azure flame in the sky came from Brother Marco's Phoenix Flame move. I'm afraid something went wrong with Marco and Ace. And, look, Dad, Diamond Joes quickly took out the lifecards of Marco and Ace from his arms. Compared to when Su Chen controlled the two people before, Marco's lifecard was actually significantly reduced by 3 or 4 circles. From the original size of a palm, it has now become the size of only 2 fingers at most. Ace's lifecard shrank even more dramatically, becoming the size of a bottle cap. This is already very telling. Marco was badly hurt. And Ace is even on the verge of death now. Who on earth could threaten a vice captain and a pirate with a bounty of over 500 million in such a short time? Could it be that Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, and Big Mom are coming to kill us? Whitebeard's heart sank when he saw this. What on earth happened in the direction of Ace and Marco? Marco and Ace are his most beloved sons, especially Ace, he is Roger's child. Whitebeard must not let anything happen to him. Subconsciously, Whitebeard released his powerful observation haki. Prepared to fly towards the direction where the terrifying battle fluctuations are coming from in the distance to check on the situation of Ace and Marco. But at this moment, Whitebeard noticed that something was wrong. The powerful observation haki that he controls should, in theory, allow him to move rapidly towards the target. Within 2 or 3 seconds at most, Whitebeard would be able to use his observation haki to sense what was happening in the distance. But now, his observation haki was like entering a swamp. Although it is still able to emit detection energy into the distance, its speed has dropped significantly. The speed was not much different from if he went there in person. What's going on? Whitebeard frowned. Although Su Chen is a huge hidden danger on the pirate ship, so far apart from his constant resurrection, Su Chen has not caused any danger. However, the situation with Marco and Ace is very urgent. If I don't go there quickly, I'm afraid Marco and Ace's lives may be in danger. After making up his mind, Whitebeard turned around and wanted to go to where Marco and Ace were immediately. But at this time, Whitebeard's powerful observation haki seemed to sense something. His pupils suddenly shrank and he quickly turned around to check. Just see this moment. In midair, a handsome young man covered in fluorescent light slowly opened his eyes. Su Chen has awakened. Chapter 31. Whitebeard wants to keep things quiet. Ask Su Chen if he wants to first. Su Chen. Weren't you killed by your father? Diamond Joes followed Whitebeard's gaze and looked in the direction of Su Chen. At this moment, Su Chen was suspended in midair and his injuries had completely recovered. And he has already opened his eyes. This directly shattered Diamond Joes' 3 views. He had followed Whitebeard in battle for so many years, but he had never seen a head being chopped off, a body being cut in half, or a heart being crushed. It can be restored to its original state. Diamond Joes was shocked and subconsciously looked towards the deck. There, half of Su Chen's body was chopped off by Whitebeard with his Kusukamogiri Naginata. Diamond Joes' mood, which had just calmed down, became devastated again. Unlike the previous time when he was so scared that he couldn't stand steadily, this time Joes' mind was shocked to a greater extent, causing him to secrete a violent amount of adrenaline. Unable to control himself, he launched a full-scale attack on Su Chen. Monster! Go to hell! Although Diamond Joes was yelling loudly, snot and tears were already streaming down his face. This is the body's self-protection mechanism. Joes' skin was covered with sparkling diamonds. Each one was crystal clear and reflected dazzling light. The originally plain big fist was also covered with diamonds. It suddenly turned into a huge diamond fist with a diameter of more than 1 meter. Due to the weight of the diamond, this punch generated a strong gust of wind. Just like Straw Hat Boy Luffy activates the 3rd gear and uses the giant pistol. It's extremely fast and looks really powerful. Almost the next moment, the fist was in front of Su Chen. He aimed at Su Chen's face and hit him hard. Seeing his restless son, Diamond Joe's actually took the initiative to attack Su Chen at this moment. Whitebeard immediately shouted to stop him. "Josie, don't be impulsive. Come back to me." It was almost an order. Whitebeard didn't want Diamond Joe's to attack Su Chen rashly. In addition to the strange scene that had appeared on Su Chen before, there was a more important thing. That is Su Chen at this moment. His whole body exuded a completely different aura from before. This made even a powerful person like Whitebeard feel a little pressure. Yes, Whitebeard is on Su Chen at this moment. I clearly felt the rapid improvement in strength. Although Su Chen just now possessed the special abilities of sealing domineering and fruit effects, in terms of combat level, he was only at the level of a Marine Lieutenant Admiral. To exaggerate a little, it is the level of Brigadier General. Compared to the real Marine powerhouse, like the 3 Marine Admirals, Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Vice Admiral Garp, and the former Zephyr. Su Chen's strength is still far from enough, and now Su Chen, whose head was chopped off by Whitebeard, has come back to life. The strength has increased dramatically. Su Chen's strength has now reached the level of 3 generals. 3 generals. Marine's supreme combat power. Although Diamond Joe's is the captain of the 3rd team, he is facing Su Chen, who has the strength of a general. Is there a chance of winning? Just think about it. Just as Whitebeard was thinking in his heart, a sonic boom of air compression suddenly sounded beside Whitebeard. The diamonds on Joe's body were cracking inch by inch. And his body, like a meteorite, flew rapidly into the distance. Whitebeard used his observation hockey to keenly check Diamond Joe's current situation. Already fainted, his body was severely injured and he was close to death. And the one who started all this, it was Su Chen in front of him. With just a casual swing of his arm, Su Chen caused such powerful destructive power. "Whitebeard, I told you, I am not your son. I can also board your ship." Su Chen looked at the white-bearded man in front of him, his expression still calm. The smile on the corner of his mouth, as if controlling everything, still did not disappear. At this moment, Su Chen already fully understood his current situation. Just signed in at the extreme state of near death. This time, he was chosen to be the second most important person at the entrance of heaven during the 10 days' end. The sage art echo of Heaven's Movement, awakened by Zhang Shan. The effects of abilities are pretty simple to explain. That is to gain divine power. At the same time, you will gain extremely strong self-healing ability. Su Chen has just experienced the effect once, even if only a head is left. With the help of the echo of Tian Xing Jian, Su Chen can also quickly restore his physical body to its peak state. This powerful self-healing ability seems to be even stronger than Zhang Shan's original Tian Xing Jian in the 10 days' end. In terms of functionality, Qiao Jiajan's break all methods can eliminate all extraordinary abilities. But it cannot increase any combat capability. If the system had not given Su Chen the strength copy card, he would have been able to copy the strength of Vice Admiral Momosagi Marine. I'm afraid that Su Chen is now just a buff enhancement tool that can only eliminate other people's fruits and domineering abilities. After all, he had lost both legs, had no fighting ability, and his life was coming to an end. Not worthy of participating in the battle, at most, I can be an assistant. And now, with the powerful echo of Tian Xing Jian, Su Chen is no longer the person who was bullied by others. After clearly realizing his own powerful strength, Su Chen knew, my current strength is comparable to any Marine Admiral. The strength of a general, you know, the 3 Marine Admirals are all fruit ability users. He claimed to the people around him that he was a devil fruit user. Break all laws is the ability of one's own fruit. But doesn't Su Chen know whether he has eaten the devil fruit or not? If I could get a powerful devil fruit later, like Ace's flame fruit after the war. In that case, my strength might be able to reach a higher level. It is not impossible to surpass the 3 Marine Admirals in strength. This is also the reason why Su Chen looked so heavy when he was fighting Whitebeard, whose abilities were sealed. And now he is surrounded by the Whitebeard pirates. The reason why he can remain calm in the face of Whitebeard. Su Chen has enough strength and confidence to face Whitebeard. Little ghost, do you think you have stronger strength than before? Can I forgive you for what you did to my sons before? Killing you does take some time, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. Whitebeard held the naginata in his hand and pointed the blade at Su Chen's neck. His face was cold. This was in stark contrast to Su Chen, who had a faint smile on his lips. But soon, Whitebeard took back the naginata Murakumo from Su Chen's neck. Turned away coldly, no longer looking at Su Chen. Now he had to go to support Ace and Marco and had no intention of fighting with Su Chen anymore. So, Whitebeard is one of the 4 emperors, once again compromised with Su Chen. Go back. Tell that old fellow Sengoku to issue an order not to attack any member of the Whitebeard pirates within 3 years, and I will not pursue this matter any further. But just when Whitebeard was about to settle the matter and rush to Ace and Marco's location to provide support. A fist with terrifying power, still blasting towards Whitebeard's direction. Su Chen took action. How fast did Whitebeard react? The naginata in his hand slashed directly, and collided with Su Chen again. The earth is shaking. The terrifying might once again erupted between the two of them. In Whitebeard's eyes, there is murderous intent everywhere.
Boy, do you really want to die? Well, I'll help you. Chapter 32 Whitebeard vs. Su Chen, a strike that changes the world without mercy.
Whitebeard now wants to settle the matter peacefully and no longer get entangled with Su Chen. But this requires asking Su Chen whether he agrees or not. Even if Su Chen did not take the initiative to admit it. But everyone knows that it is Su Chen who appeared next to the Marine Vice Admiral Momoshiki Gion. It can only be someone from the world government, without any exceptions. When Su Chen himself was resurrected through the echo of Tian Xing Jian, he had already used his enhanced observation haki to observe the situation of the battle in the distance from a distance. As Su Chen's strength increased to the level of a general, his observation haki also increased, surpassing the original observation haki level of Momoshiki Gion. There, Kizaru and Akainu, who came to support, have appeared.
In addition to supporting himself now, it is obvious that he also has the mission of capturing Marco and Ace.
It can be seen that Kizaru is obviously in a state of slacking off at the moment, but Akainu Kasasuke alone is able to suppress the two aces. Further up the coast of Banero Island, more than a dozen marine ships have appeared from the end of the horizon. Heading towards the island, it was obviously other support coming from the marine. According to Momoshiki Gion, these are all marine forces who came for him. So after learning about the various information on Banero Island today, Su Chen had the following reasons for taking action against Whitebeard. First, in the original plot of One Piece, Ace was supposed to be defeated by Blackbeard on this island and then sold to the world government. Blackbeard thus earned the title of Seven Warlords of the Sea, and prepared to seize Whitebeard's Tremor fruit in the subsequent Battle of Marineford. You can say that it was precisely because Ace was captured that a series of major events in the original plot of One Piece occurred, such as the Impel Down riot and the Battle of Marineford. Even if Whitebeard was facing two marine admirals, if he did not stop them from rescuing Ace and Marco, they would definitely be rescued by Whitebeard. Then all subsequent plots in the One Piece world will cease to exist, which will cause a dramatic butterfly effect in time and space. Su Chen was not sure what the consequences would be.
But at least he is compared to other indigenous people in the One Piece world.
He was familiar with the plot, but now he no longer has any ability to control and intervene in the future. They will become like other indigenous people, drifting with the flow. This was a huge blow to Su Chen. The 10-day Sage Art gained by signing in is certainly powerful. But if you want to gain a better foothold in this pirate world, we still need to control the future plot of the pirate world. As for Whitebeard and Ace, they died in the Battle of Marineford. How many people feel unhappy about this? But Su Chen already has a plan for this, but now is not the time to implement it. Second, although he had traveled through time and space, Granny he had taken care of him for so many years and had found a large amount of cutting-edge medical resources without any ulterior motive. Just to prolong your life. Even though there is no blood relationship between the two parties, a relationship similar to that between grandmother and grandson has already been formed between them. Because of the memories of his previous life, he also has deep feelings for Granny Crane. Therefore, he naturally developed a sense of closeness to the marine forces. Right now Kizaru and Akainu are about to capture Ace and Marco, two pirates whose combined bounty is nearly 2 billion berries. As the biggest contributor to delaying Whitebeard, Su Chen will surely be rewarded. But the problem is that Su Chen has not become a citizen of the world government, he is just an idler in the marine headquarters. This achievement will naturally be attributed to the Marine Chief of Staff, Granny Crane. This is also what Su Chen wants. Third, I just obtained 2 powerful Sage Art echoes, Heaven's Movement, and Breaking All Laws. And the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard, is right in front of him. Is it possible to hold back and fight Whitebeard to experience the opportunity of being powerful? The above 3 points. This is the strongest support for Su Chen to take action against Whitebeard now. But for Su Chen, none of this matters. What really made Su Chen take action against Whitebeard, who was already prepared to settle the matter peacefully. It was a few minutes ago. The knife that Whitebeard used to cut off his own neck.
Damn it, he had only just attacked his son, but Whitebeard had chopped off his head with a knife. Although this was all planned by myself. But how could Su Chen not take revenge for having his head chopped off? Whitebeard only needed to protect his son, but when his head was chopped off by Kusukumokiri, he had a lot to consider. After all, I, Su Chen, have never been a vindictive person. Hearing the undisguised anger in Whitebeard's voice, Su Chen didn't look annoyed at all. There was no pause in the movements of his hands. Aiming at Whitebeard, the second punch was ready. Now he has no weapons, so of course he can only use his fists as weapons. However, unlike the first punch, the second punch Su Chen threw at Whitebeard head-on. It has been entangled by dark energy. It's the armed color domineering. This made Su Chen's already destructive punch even more powerful. Seeing this, Whitebeard snorted coldly. The naginata in his hand turned pitch black and rushed towards Su Chen's fist. This time, Whitebeard used the power of the tremor fruit and attached it to the blade. The moment the attacks from both sides came into contact, thunder and lightning intertwined between the two. The ground on Banero Island was shaking even more terribly. The land within a radius of 300 meters centered on the location where Whitebeard and Su Chen fought. They are all cracked inch by inch. Under the powerful impact, the ground dropped a full 30 centimeters. A huge, bottomless crack has quietly appeared. And along with the attacks between Su Chen and Whitebeard, the width of the crack continued to expand. The Whitebeard pirates on the ground felt dizzy. Having experienced countless big scenes with Whitebeard, they still felt deeply shocked at this moment. They all looked at the deck above the pirate ship, where Whitebeard and Su Chen were fighting. They never thought about it. There is actually a young man who can fight Whitebeard with all his strength. In a short period of time, you won't even lose out. This scene is enough to change their perspectives. Because in their eyes, as one of the four emperors, Whitebeard should be invincible. And as the terrifying power dissipated, the third wave of attack by Whitebeard and Su Chen. It's ready. This time, both sides are ready to not hold back. Whitebeard's three colors of domineering power are fully unleashed, and the tremor fruit is fully released. Kong Yunchi also burst out with unprecedented might at this moment. The sky and earth changed color. Everyone would be able to sense Whitebeard's next attack. The power is absolutely unprecedented. The most powerful man on the sea will be released soon. Sealed in his body, the most terrifying destructive power. Chapter 33 Akainu Kizaru was shocked. Who was fighting against this monstrous Whitebeard? Facing Whitebeard's attack that shook the heaven and earth. Su Chen's two-color domineering aura is fully revealed. On his fists, the two echoes of Break All Laws and Heaven's Movement have been activated. At this moment, his momentum also reached its peak. The mind is focused. Su Chen did not hesitate and faced Whitebeard's Naginata, which seemed to carry the weight of the whole world. Collided together. When there was a majestic sound of metal collision. Stretching over 300 miles. A terrifying force gathered from the sky. The rolling dark clouds are mixed with the terrifying power of thunder. It contains a terrifying will of destruction. It seemed as if anyone under this terrifying thunder was as small as an ant. Whitebeard in a serious state, Conqueror's domineering attitude in full swing. The momentum created was so overwhelming. An irresistible thought arose in the hearts of everyone present. So scary. No one can resist this thunder tribulation. Except Su Chen. At this moment, Su Chen saw the terrifying and majestic thunder about to roll down. Not only was there no fear in his eyes, but instead there was a hint of intense heat. Just one day ago, Su Chen is still a poor guy lying in bed, with medical devices inserted all over his body to barely keep him alive. Even wanting to turn over was impossible. His severed legs forever ended his hope of walking. And now, facing the entire world, they are the undisputed strongest. Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. This is a living legend recognized by everyone on the sea. Su Chen is already able to compete with him. A thrilling battle will begin. It is no exaggeration to say that Su Chen now relies on his own strength. He has already stood among the strongest in the world. Far away, Akainu's arms have turned into terrifying lava fists. In Kizaru's hand, the beam of light transformed into the Kusanagi sword exuded powerful power. Marco was badly injured, and the wings behind him flapped, creating a huge airflow that allowed him to float in the air. In his hand, he still held the Fire Fist Ace, which had lost its ability to fight. The four people were originally in a fierce fight. It is clearly at the most critical moment. They subconsciously looked in the same direction at the same time. The look of astonishment in his eyes was not concealed at all. Marco's heart sank. He also couldn't figure out why he was near the Whitebeard pirate ship in the distance. Why did such a terrifying battle fluctuation break out? What happened to Dad? Ace, I'll find a chance to throw you out later. You must hurry back to your daddy. I can still hold on. I can hold off Akainu and Kizaru for a while. It shouldn't be a problem. Ace coughed violently twice. He looked up at Marco. He said with a wry smile. Marco, do you still want to show off at this time? With your severely injured body, you are going to stop two Marine generals. Don't be ridiculous. The two of them were facing each other. Whitebeard. When Whitebeard gets serious, he's so terrifying. What a monster. I'm afraid that even if I use all my strength in this state, I will still not be a match for this old monster. Akainu, wearing a Hawaiian resort shirt, had a gloomy look in his eyes. He discovered the gap in strength between himself and Whitebeard. It's still like a chasm. This was a huge blow to him, who always considered himself the strongest Marine. Oh, that's terrible. Who is Whitebeard fighting against? I'm really curious. Kososki, shouldn't we waste our time on these two brats? The grandson of Chief of Staff, he can't stand the aftermath of such a battle. Huang Yuan raised his eyebrows and looked into the distance at the sky where dark clouds were mixed with rolling thunder. He let out a leisurely sigh. In the next moment, Kizaru's body disappeared from the spot. Not even enough time to blink. Then he appeared in front of Marco and Ace. Two little devils. Have you ever been kicked by lightspeed? Yellow Monkey's right leg turned into a beam of light, heading straight for Marco's vital point. This kick down. Kizaru didn't kick Marco, but instead hit Ace, who was already dying. Ace's eyes bulged out and a large amount of blood spurted out of his mouth. Hurry. Go. Before losing consciousness, Ace managed to squeeze out these two words. Marco saw Ace blocking Kizaru's kick for him. His eyes were bloodshot, but Marco also knew it at this moment. Now is his last chance to escape. If they don't cherish this opportunity that Ace has fought for him, I'm afraid they will never be able to escape. Ace, wait for me. Even if you were imprisoned in Impel Down, even if you were captured and taken to the Marine headquarters. As long as you are still alive, my father and I will definitely rescue you. Marco turned his head with difficulty, as if he had used up all his strength. He clenched his teeth so tightly that blood even oozed out of his mouth. The Phoenix fruit is fully activated. The next moment, his body turned into a rapid blue flame and rushed towards the direction of Whitebeard in the distance. Hey, Borsellino, why did you let the kid go? You can catch up with him. Seeing that Marco actually ran away in front of the two of them. Akainu was furious and he questioned Kizaru angrily. It seemed as if he would attack Kizaru directly here as long as Kizaru didn't give him a convincing explanation. Hey, don't be so angry. Kizaru grabbed Ace and quickly felt Ace's breath at the moment. Fortunately, he didn't die. As long as you are not dead, you can complete the task. Kizaru glanced at Akainu casually and said, isn't the first task now to rescue Su Chen? We have already wasted several minutes here. If something happens to Su Chen, I won't be the one held accountable by Zhongguo. It was you who proposed to arrest Marco and Ace. Or if you want Marco's head, I can go get it and give it to you now. Akainu looked gloomy. Now their first task is indeed to rescue Su Chen. It was indeed Akainu's arbitrary decision to arrest Ace and Marco. If Su Chen was really not saved because of this, Zhongguo would definitely hold Kososki accountable. In desperation, Akainu had to follow the highest order issued by Fleet Admiral. That's when it happened. In the distant sky, terrifying thunder finally fell from the rolling black clouds. A horrific explosion occurred on Banero Island. It's as if everything in the world has been muted. Everything turned into black and white. The earth was cracking inch by inch. The entire ground of Banero Island was constantly turning into powder. Reduced to ashes, seawater is seeping out from the earth's crust. The entire Banero Island is about to be shattered. This was the true peak fight between Su Chen and Whitebeard. It has already started. Chapter 34. The three generals gathered on Banero Island. Whitebeard was shocked. Are they going to annihilate him? The terrifying aftermath came in waves. The ground on Banero Island seemed to have reached its endurance limit. It began to gradually collapse. And Whitebeard and Su Chen. The first wave of all-out fighting is over. Whitebeard held the Naginata Murakumo in his hand and looked at Su Chen in front of him with a stern expression. The ability of the Tremor fruit and the three-color domineering power in his body have been completely sealed. Only the strength of the physical body remains. His chest kept rising and falling, proving that the previous fight with Su Chen was not easy. But at this moment, Su Chen's situation was even worse. The two arms that were wrapped in the armament hockey were completely broken. It turned into two blood mists and dissipated in the air. Red-haired Shanks only had one arm broken, but Su Chen now has both arms broken. Logically speaking, Su Chen should no longer have any ability to fight. But that is not the case. With the echo of heaven's movement and the blessing of sage art, the wound quickly radiated fluorescent energy. Then the flesh and blood quickly regenerated. Su Chen's brand new arms grew back in less than a second. It seems like he didn't suffer any injuries. Whitebeard, come again. A smile flashed across Su Chen's lips. He has clearly discovered the 10 days end sage art extracted by the system. There is no cost at all to release it. So scary. This means that Su Chen can never stop using the self-healing skill of Tian Xing Jian. As long as you are not killed instantly by one move, you can continue to heal yourself. With this perpetual motion-like fighting style, no matter how powerful the opponent is, he can't kill Su Chen instantly. Sooner or later, he will be dragged to death by Su Chen. And Whitebeard seemed to have noticed this at this moment. He swung the Naginata with even more force. If you want to defeat Su Chen, you can only kill him with one strike. Smash it to pieces, leaving it no chance to use its self-healing ability. But how difficult is it to kill Su Chen, who is close to a general, in seconds? Whitebeard slashed with his sword again, and his fists collided with Su Chen's. With a puff, Su Chen's fists turned into blood mist again. Just a dozen seconds. The two sides have fought dozens of times. The air was filled with blood mist. They were all Su Chen's body tissues that were cut off by Whitebeard. In this extreme combat environment, Su Chen's combat skills are improving rapidly. And he could clearly feel that Whitebeard's power was slowly declining. If the fight continues like this, the first person to fall will be the one. It must be Whitebeard. Su Chen thought this over and over again as he fought. At the stage when the battle between the two has become fierce. Far away, a blue flame suddenly appeared. Very fast. Everyone just spotted a blue light far away in the sky. After a few breaths, the blue dot appeared. It turned out to be the Phoenix Marco. Dad, Something terrible has happened. Marco was covered in blood at this moment. His clothes were tattered and there was hardly a single intact part of his body. This was much worse than Marco's condition when he had fought Su Chen before. Whitebeard and Su Chen took a step back at the same time. No one took the next step. It seems like there is a tacit understanding between them. Whitebeard looked at the badly injured Marco, and a hint of worry unconsciously flashed in his eyes. What's going on? Where's Ace? I'm sorry, Dad. I abandoned Ace and escaped back alone. Marco's eyes were red and he spoke through gritted teeth. It's Kizaru and Akainu. What? Why is the Marine Admiral here? 2 of the 3 admirals have been dispatched. Aren't they afraid that someone will attack the Marine headquarters at this time? Is this Sengoku's attempt to take advantage of this opportunity to destroy the Whitebeard pirates? There was a flash of astonishment in Whitebeard's eyes. He didn't understand why Akainu and Kizaru appeared here. That's when it happened. The Den Mushi on Whitebeard's waist suddenly rang. Oh no. Whitebeard Dad. The Marine warship is heading towards Banero Island. There are so many, too many to count. Please give us instructions. If we don't retreat now, there is a high possibility that we will not have a chance to retreat. Ah, what is that? The sea is starting to freeze. It's Aokiji. Aokiji, one of the 3 Marine admirals. Why is he here? At this point in the business, the phone was hung up. In just a few sentences, there is so much information. Whitebeard took a deep breath. The big hand tightly grasped the hilt of Naginata Murasaki. Aokiji has also appeared. All 3 Marine admirals were dispatched. A large number of Marine warships were also dispatched to surround their dozen pirate ships. This level is comparable to Buster Call Right. What a horrible handwriting. It seems that all this was planned by the Warring States period. Do you want to completely make the Whitebeard pirates disappear? What a good calculation. Whitebeard believes that everything that happened on Banero Island this time. It was all a plot by Sengoku Fleet Admiral. The plan against the Whitebeard pirates. His old rival, Marine Fleet Admiral Sengoku, believes that he and the Whitebeard pirates are at odds with each other. It is the most unstable factor in this ocean and needs to be eliminated. That's why Blackbeard Teach appeared on Banero Island so, coincidentally. Su Chen, who has all kinds of strange abilities, just happened to come here. Su Chen defeated Ace and deliberately let Blackbeard Teach escape. He defeated Marco who came to rescue him, thus attracting his own appearance. It is obvious that Su Chen is the secret weapon sent by Zhongguo. The purpose is to hold him back so that he can annihilate the entire Whitebeard pirates in one fell swoop. As for other possibilities, Whitebeard also thought about it. But they were all rejected in his heart. After all, this is Marine's highest combat power. It's impossible that he came here to rescue Su Chen. Given Su Chen's strength, is it necessary to send someone to rescue him? Now Su Chen wants to leave, and Whitebeard asks himself if he is sure he can keep him. Just as Whitebeard was thinking in his heart. On the bow deck of Whitebeard's ship. A golden beam of light suddenly appeared. Then a tall and thin figure formed. This man looked a bit shabby and was wearing sunglasses. He is about 40 or 50 years old, and looks like a bad-looking uncle. He was dressed in a striped yellow suit. A white marine justice cloak was casually draped over the shoulders. Comer. It was Kizaru, one of the 3 admirals of Marine. Borsellino. As soon as Kizaru came up, he didn't even look at Whitebeard. Instead, he just left his back to the other person. His attitude was very arrogant, and he seemed not afraid of Whitebeard's sneak attack at all. His eyes were fixed straight in the direction of Su Chen. Looking at Su Chen, who was full of strong aura and had no defects on his body. There was a hint of surprise in Kizaru's eyes. Then he was a little bit unconvinced. He took out a somewhat old photo from his pocket. The picture above shows Su Chen lying unconscious on a hospital bed after his legs were amputated. After confirming again and again that there was no difference in appearance, Kizaru said with some disbelief. Little ghost, what is your relationship with Su Chen? Chapter 35 Kizaru is scared. Is Su Chen going to reveal who Ace's father is? He saw Kizaru appearing in front of him. Su Chen didn't panic at all. He did not directly answer Kizaru's question. Instead, he asked Kizaru directly. How is Lieutenant General Momosuke doing now? Has it been properly accommodated? After coming to this world, if there is anyone other than Grandma He who has a closer relationship with Su Chen, then there is only this Lieutenant General Marine who is not afraid of hardships and dangers, just to fulfill his wish. Momosuke Gion. Without the help of Lieutenant General Momosuke, Su Chen might not even be able to complete the system check-in for the first time. Not to mention, he also copied the opponent's quasi-general strength. So Su Chen is very concerned about Momosuke Gion's current safety situation since he left. Oh, it's okay if you don't answer my question, but you still take the initiative to ask me back. What an interesting kid. Kizaru raised his eyebrows, but he didn't get angry. Lieutenant General Momosuke has been picked up by pacifists and sent to the Marine Science Department warship for treatment. Momosuke is a Marine Lieutenant General, so naturally we will not ignore her. The questions are answered, kid. It's your turn to answer my question. Let me ask you another question. What does Marine Chief of Staff Lieutenant General he have to do with you? Kizaru asked a more tricky question. This question has a big pitfall. As long as Su Chen is pretending, Huang Yuan will be able to find out immediately. Su Chen's expression remained unchanged and he answered simply. Grandma Crane has nothing to do with me. I'm just an albino kid who was dying that she picked up from North Blue a long time ago. After hearing Su Chen's answer, Huang Yuan raised his chin slightly. He touched his chin thoughtfully. Obviously, after hearing this answer, there is nothing wrong with it. Kizaru was already certain that the young man in front of him, exuding the power of a strong man, was the target of the Warring States period's request for protection. Granny He's grandson is Su Chen himself. But why is this kid so powerful? It doesn't seem like he's much weaker than me. Do you need to send all Marine senior executives to protect such a kid? Just when Kizaru was thinking, Whitebeard's eyes had narrowed. Su Chen is enough to give him a headache. Now, Kizaru has also arrived. Although it is not impossible to deal with. But Su Chen has the strange ability of sealing. It's definitely very tricky to fight. Even the children on his ship didn't know how many of them could survive. Kizaru, do you Marines really think of me as Whitebeard's ship? Are you here just because you want to? Oh, it's so scary. I don't want to come on your ship, but I have no choice. The Warring States Fleet Admiral gave me the highest order. We must take this kid back. Yo, by the way, I also captured the boy named Ace on your ship, which is an extra bonus of this trip. Okay, the mission has been completed. Then take your leave, Whitebeard. After that, he directly grabbed Su Chen's collar and planned to leave directly from the bow deck of Whitebeard's ship. Kizaru said to Su Chen, Sengoku Fleet Admiral is very worried about you. If I don't send you back quickly, I won't have time to be lazy. Just when Kizaru was about to use his Shining Fruit ability and leave here. Laugh. A powerful sword light came directly from behind the two of them. Kizaru didn't even turn his head, and disappeared on the spot for a moment. He directly led Su Chen to avoid Whitebeard's attack. Oh, so fierce. Whitebeard, he actually carried out a sneak attack. It is indeed a pirate's despicable style. Porcellino, you Marines are so aggressive just to protect Su Chen from leaving. Then you can just take this kid away, but, at this point, an aura of majesty without even being angry erupted from Whitebeard's body. Ace, you can't take it away. He is the child of an old friend of mine. I can't just watch you take Ace away. Whitebeard's attitude is very clear. You can take Su Chen away. After all, he really couldn't handle this brat in a short time, and if he dragged it on, he might even capsize in the ditch. Being exhausted to death by this brat. But Ace, as a former One Piece child of Gall D. Roger. Moreover, he is the child of his best friend. No matter what, it is impossible for Whitebeard to watch Ace being taken away by Marine and his crew. Although Ace is still under the control of Marine, no one knows where he is being held. But there is good news. But no one knows Ace's true background yet. As long as the background of Ace's biological father is not exposed, the initiative still lies with Whitebeard. After all, Ace is just a pirate with only 550 million berries. As long as Whitebeard is willing to put pressure on him, Marine will not let go. That's when it happened. A huge mass of lava appeared in the distance. Akainu, one of the three generals, finally arrived. Although the lava fruit gave Akainu powerful destructive power, it did not make up for his disadvantage in speed. But compared to Aokiji who has not yet arrived at the battlefield, Akainu's speed is not too slow anymore. Borsellino, what are you doing? Why don't you hurry up and carry out your mission objectives, find Lieutenant General He's grandson, and protect him safely? You have been dawdling on Whitebeard's ship. Could it be that you have some dirty conspiracy with these pirates? Akainu had a cigar between his lips. With one jump, he was already next to Kizaru. Two generals, plus Su Chen. Whitebeard felt the pressure suddenly increase a lot. Don't worry, Kasasaki, isn't the person Fleet Admiral asked us to find right here? Kizaru smiled obscenely and glanced at Su Chen beside him. Akainu followed Kizaru's line of sight and was stunned. The half-smoked cigar in his mouth fell onto the deck at the bow out of surprise. This kid, how could it be? According to the information registered by Vice Admiral He, isn't his grandson a dying kid? Kizaru shrugged. The facts are before your eyes. He is the grandson of Chief of Staff Crane. There is no doubt about that. So, Whitebeard. Kizaru turned his head and brought the topic back. He put his hands in his pockets and looked at Whitebeard arrogantly. Are you sure you want to fight us just for a small pirate worth only 550 million? You know, Kizaru knows Ace's true identity. So his hint was already obvious. He hoped that Whitebeard would quickly exert pressure, as long as the other party exerted pressure to a certain extent. For Su Chen's safety at this moment, Warring States Fleet Admiral will definitely consider releasing Fire Fist Ace. As long as Ace's identity is not exposed, there won't be much commotion on the sea in a short period of time. Win-win. This is definitely the best outcome for Kizaru, who practices ambiguous justice. Whitebeard had been roaming the sea for so many years, so naturally he understood Kizaru's subtext. There was a flash of astonishment in his eyes. As a Marine admiral, Kizaru actually knew that Ace was Roger's child. There's definitely something wrong here. Moreover, Kizaru's image of being lazy and slacking off has long been well known, and even Whitebeard has heard of it. Could this Kizaru be a member of the Revolutionary Army? Whitebeard guessed in his mind. Just as he wanted to respond to Kizaru's words and put some pressure on him. So that we can trade and get back the ace. Akainu is next to Kizaru. Su Chen, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. And once he opens his mouth, he won't stop until his words shock the world. Chapter 36 Whitebeard vs. Buddha Warring States. A shocking war is about to begin. General Kizaru, this Fire Fist ace can never be returned to Whitebeard. Even if we fight to the death with the Whitebeard pirates and others, we will never be able to pay it back. Marine's justice is absolute justice and cannot be questioned. Although I am just an idle member of the Marine headquarters now, I have a burning desire to serve the world government and maintain world peace. Originally, I was incapable and needed to rely on medical equipment to survive, but it's different now. I have the strength to help Marine and defeat the pirates. Pirates have been doing evil on the sea for many years, killing and looting countless people. How many people have been displaced, and how many people have had their families destroyed? I dare not say that this is the Whitebeard pirates who have done this kind of thing, but they are pirates. They represent pirates, and our Marines' arrogance must not be suppressed by this unhealthy trend. I will definitely return this sea to a peaceful world. Su Chen's words were impassioned. Akainu, who had just arrived from the side, was excited to hear it. When he looked at Su Chen, there were little stars in his eyes. It seems like the pirates discovered the One Piece secret treasure. Good boy, he is indeed the kid that Fleet Admiral values in the Warring States period. This passage simply spoke to my heart. Isn't that his motto? Implementing absolute justice, this concept is a perfect explanation. Good, good, good. I have long disliked that boy Kizaru, and he keeps saying that, ambiguous justice, is justice. It's all bullshit. Akainu immediately showed a generous smile to Su Chen. But he hadn't smiled for many years, and suddenly he smiled at Su Chen. The stiff muscles on his face were squeezed together. That is uglier than crying. Facing Whitebeard's attack, Su Chen never felt the slightest bit afraid. But now that he saw Akainu's disgusting and ugly smile, he really couldn't control himself and took a step back. When Akainu saw this, he just thought the kid was scared. Then he stood up. He looked directly at Whitebeard. The whole body's momentum surged. Whitebeard, if you have the ability, just fight with us to the death. Although this kid is not very old, what he said does make sense. We, Marines, will never give in to sin. This Fire Fist ace, even if the four emperors attack him together, we, Marine, will never give you a chance to take him away. Let's fight. Edward, let me experience the strength of the most powerful pirate on the surface. Rolling hot magma, emerging from the body of Akainu Kasaki. The air instantly became several degrees hotter. A large amount of water mist appeared from Akainu's body. Obviously, he is ready to fight at any time. And Kizaru on the side saw it. Although his complexion remains unchanged, he still has that wretched and draggy look that needs a beating. But deep down in my heart, I have scolded these two guys Akainu and Su Chen 10,000 times. Damn it, why threaten Whitebeard at such a critical time? You guys have no idea if it is revealed that Ace's father is One Piece Roger. What a terrifying tremor there will be in the whole sea. In that case, how can I still fish with a salary? Obviously all you need to do is do nothing. Let yourself negotiate with Whitebeard honestly. At most, if Whitebeard sheds some blood and puts Ace back, the matter can be settled. By then, not only will there be peace on the sea, but Marine can also continue to recuperate. And now, being so excited by Akainu and Su Chen. As one of the four emperors, is it possible for Whitebeard to give up? Damn it, Kizaru felt like his back molars were about to be bitten into pieces by himself. He glanced at Su Chen casually. Just now I thought this kid was quite pleasing to the eye. The more I look at it now, the more I feel that I am blind. Sure enough, after Akainu took the initiative to provoke Whitebeard. Whitebeard also exudes a fierce murderous intent. The war is obviously about to break out. Kizaru didn't want to really start a fight. He quickly said to Whitebeard. Yo, that's really scary. Faced with our 3 Marine generals and the Sengoku Fleet Admirals crusade. As Whitebeard, one of the 4 emperors, resisting for a mere little pirate worth 500 million belly. It's really scary. Kizaru spoke directly in a despicable tone. Just make it clear to Whitebeard. He told Whitebeard in subtext. In order to protect Su Chen, more than just the 3 generals of Marine came. Even the Fleet Admiral of the Warring States, known as the Buddha's Warring States, has come to Banaro Island in person. Just to protect Su Chen. Such a luxurious configuration. The Marine forces really value Su Chen. The best situation now is to retreat quickly. Temporarily give up Fire Fist Ace. As long as Ace's identity is not exposed, everything can be salvaged. After all, Ace is just a small pirate with 550 million Baileys, even if he was imprisoned in Impel Down. Then you won't be locked up at the bottom. As long as they are not at the bottom, who would care if a few prisoners disappeared? When the time comes, I will change my name and rejoin the Whitebeard pirates. And if Whitebeard still insists on being so stubborn and fights Marine head-on. So what is the purpose of the Marine forces coming to Bannerou Island today? But it's not just about protecting Su Chen. Killing Whitebeard, one of the 4 emperors, may not be realistic. But let all the people around Whitebeard die in front of Whitebeard. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, the Supreme Commander of the Marine Corps, has this point. It is definitely possible to do it. You have to know that the Warring States Fleet Admiral is famous for its strategies. However, his fruit, the human fruit, Great Buddha form, has a terrifying destructive power that is not inferior to Whitebeard. If there are Sengoku joining the battle, Whitebeard who insisted on fighting would definitely not have a good ending. The best outcome for Whitebeard and his crew would be for both sides to suffer losses. Kizaru finished speaking. He just put his hands in his pockets and stopped talking nonsense. The obscene eyes under the sunglasses were staring straight at the white-bearded man in front of him. Squeak, squeak. Whitebeard clenched his teeth and made an unpleasant sound. Both sides are shrewd people. Of course he heard the threat in Kizaru's words. The meaning is very clear. As long as I don't agree to retreat now, then both sides will fight at all costs. There is no third choice between the two parties. Because of what Su Chen said, what should have been a win-win outcome today has turned into the current situation. Whitebeard's side can either choose to stop the loss in time and then find a chance to rescue Ace. Or they could choose to suffer losses on both sides and go into full-scale war with Marine. No matter which one it is, Whitebeard doesn't want to see it. Whitebeard subconsciously looked towards Akainu and Kizaru. There was still a faint smile on the guy's face, as if he was in control of the whole situation. Suddenly, Whitebeard felt a surge of blood in his heart. Uncontrollable anger burst out from his body. Damn it, it's all because of this kid Su Chen. It seems that nothing good has happened to me since I met this little devil. Whitebeard only felt his strong body and his heart beating fast. Those old problems seemed to be coming back again. Whitebeard was silent for several minutes. Both sides were very quiet. Akainu lit another cigar from his pocket and started smoking it again. He even made an exception and handed one to Su Chen, but Su Chen was not used to smoking cigars when he started his business in his previous life, so he simply refused it. Kizaru leaned directly on the mast of the pirate ship, picking out earwax casually. Only Whitebeard clenched his naginata tightly and remained silent. A shadow covered his sharp face, making it impossible to see his expression at the moment. As time went by, the pressure between the two sides suddenly increased. It seems that if Whitebeard still doesn't agree, this shocking war had to sound the battle horn. Finally, accompanied by streaks of frost appearing on the horizon, Whitebeard raised his head sharply. It was a difficult decision. Good. Let Ace watch over you for a while. It's time for that kid to change his conceited personality. His complexion seemed to have aged a lot at this moment. If they don't hand over Ace, their pirate group will probably be left with only the New World detachment that didn't come to support them. Everything will be buried here today. But there is still a chance for a detour. Ace's identity has not been exposed, even though he was imprisoned in Impel Down. It is impossible for the Marines' high-level combat forces to guard here all the time. That will be the best chance to save Ace. Chapter 37 Su Chen's future plan. The third check-in point is actually here. Su Chen stood on the deck. I felt the salty sea breeze blowing across my face. From the moment I opened my eyes and realized I had traveled through time. It was only less than 2 days. But at this moment, Su Chen truly felt it. I have already traveled to the world of pirates. This was in less than 48 hours. There are so many things happening. I set out from the Marine headquarters and followed Vice Admiral Momosuke Gion to Bannerou Island. Before landing on the island, he was shot dead by Van Oka of the Blackbeard pirates. Fortunately, Momosuke Gion helped him block the fatal blow. Afterwards, he and Momosuke landed on the island and encountered the scene of the final battle between Ace and Blackbeard. I asked Momosuke to help me sign in at the check-in point, and obtained the echo of Chao Jajan's Break All Laws in the end of 10 days. He also received a novice gift pack, which replicated Momosuke's semi-general strength. Break All Laws conceal all domineering powers and fruits. But breaking all laws could not help Su Chen to survive, so Su Chen had to go to the next check-in point again. That is, on the Whitebeard pirate ship. Everything was such a coincidence. When he wanted to find Whitebeard's ship, Whitebeard actually brought the pirate ship directly to the center of the battlefield. After going through a series of things, Su Chen finally completed the system check-in by relying on extreme operations. This time, he received the echo of Heaven's Movement from Zhongshan at the entrance of Heaven at the end of the 10 days. Open black lens bracket Tian Xing Jian close black lens bracket possess 2 special abilities, Divine Power and Self-Healing. Relying on this response, Su Chen's strength was raised to the level of a general, and he even healed his albinism, and his lifespan was greatly extended. The sword of Damocles named Insufficient Lifespan finally disappeared completely from Su Chen's head. Finally, after a lot of trouble, Su Chen finally boarded the warship back to the Marine headquarters. I took another deep breath of the salty sea breeze. Su Chen just felt refreshed. After all, now, all dangers that threaten his life have finally been resolved. From now on, your life will be completely determined by yourself. Think of this. Su Chen called out the system directly. System, tell me my remaining lifespan now. Ding ding ding. Reply host, your remaining lifespan exceeds 100 years, and you do not meet the conditions for querying lifespan at the moment. Please meet the prerequisite that the host's lifespan is less than 100 years, or upgrade the system before querying again. I heard the system clearly tell me that my lifespan has exceeded 100 years. Only then did Su Chen feel completely relieved. Now, as long as he didn't seek death on purpose, he would have no problem living for at least 100 years. After all, I have now acquired the strength of a general. It can be said that except for a few people with top strength in the pirate world. Basically, the current me relies on the two major responses of heaven's movement and breaking all laws. I can now walk sideways. Wait a moment, what did the system just say? It seems to be saying that once the system is upgraded, the remaining life can be checked clearly. Can the system be upgraded? Su Chen finally reacted at this time. Before this, he had never heard his system say that it had the function of being able to be upgraded. He just thought that he was bound. It's just a simple system where you can get rewards by checking in everywhere. It seemed that he had noticed Su Chen's doubts. The system answered in Su Chen's mind. Answer the host. You are right. This system has many other functions. But currently host, you do not have sufficient permissions, so you cannot use other functions for the time being. But as long as you continue to check in everywhere in the pirate world and accumulate a certain number of times, you can upgrade. The upgraded system will have more functions, and even include a channel to return to the original world. The system's voice just fell. Su Chen said in astonishment. What did you say? Return to the original world. He really didn't expect that there would be a day when he would return to his original world. Although the pirate world is comfortable, it is not as good as returning to the original world. After all, in the original world, there is no need to worry about life and death. I have also worked hard to build a large career, waiting for me to enjoy it. There are relatives waiting for me to come home. Suddenly, there was a flash of heat in Su Chen's eyes. It has been 2 days since I came to the pirate world. In the past 2 days, he has been running around and experienced many things. What he is trying to do is just to prolong his limited lifespan. And after the threat to his limited lifespan has been eliminated. In fact, Su Chen today lacks any action goals. Although he had said in front of Kizaru and Akainu that he wanted to serve the world government and uphold justice for the Marines. But in fact, that's just polite talk. The sole purpose is to prevent the plot of the pirate world from undergoing drastic changes and escaping his control. Avoid danger in your environment so that after you solve the problem of longevity, you can live a better life. For example, if Shanyu's original plan to give up was to go wrong during the war at the top, Su Chen must have run far away. But now, I know that after upgrading the system to a certain level, you can return to your original world. Su Chen immediately had a goal. As long as there is a system check-in task, Su Chen will complete it as soon as possible. This will not only pave the way for system upgrades, but will also allow you to gain powerful Sage Art Echoes from 10 Days End. But in this case, I must have the strength and status to travel all over the Red Earth continent. For example, now if Su Chen plans to join his marine camp, then you must obtain the rank of general. Otherwise, if the system releases a route to the residence of the Celestial Dragons, the Holy Land of Mary Hoya, or you can sign in and clock in at the 5 Elders. Without the identity of Marine Admiral, then Su Chen would be completely in the dark and be unable to do anything. Think of this. Su Chen immediately asked the system. System, has the next mission been released? Ding ding ding. Reply host, the location of the next check-in location has been allocated as soon as you completed your last check-in. Has the third system punch-in location been issued? Su Chen was a little confused. But he soon figured it out. At that time, we checked in at the second location, the bow deck of Whitebeard, and completed the check-in. All that was left of him was a bald head. I was already unconscious at that time. Even if the system released a new check-in location, how would I know when I was unconscious? No way. Su Chen could only ask again about the location of the mission. The system responded quickly. Reply host, your third system task check-in point is at Holy Land Mary Hoya, Pangu City. 5 Elders Office. Chapter 38. Zhang Guo was speechless. Just boarding a ship and awakening the fruit. Who are you kidding, Su Chen? The third sign in location is actually in Mary Hoya, the holy place where the celestial dragons live. And it's in the 5 Elders Office. It's getting more and more difficult. Su Chen saw the third check-in location released by the system. I suddenly felt a bit overwhelmed. I just said that I must improve my strength and status, at least get the title of Marine Admiral. As a result, the system immediately told me that the next check-in location was the office of the 5 Elders in Pangu City, the Holy Land of Mary Hoya. If the system had not informed me in advance, the task would have been issued when I fainted. Su Chen felt that the system was deliberately messing with him. After all, this is the location of the third check-in spot. The difficulty of getting there is compared to the previous two. It can be said to be a world of difference. I am just an ordinary kid in the white town of North Blue in the One Piece world. How is it possible to enter the residence of the celestial dragons so easily? I hope that the reward for checking in this time will be at least a sage art response starting from 3 words. The best 4 words are the endless flow of heaven-defying intensity. Otherwise, it would be a shame to complete such a difficult punch-in task. That's how it looks now. This sign-in needs to be divided into several steps. First, you need to join the Marine faction and obtain at least the rank of Marine General. Even a Vice Admiral is not good enough, after all, in the Marine headquarters. Garp, a great hero with great military achievements, is unable to meet the Celestial Dragons directly because he does not have the rank of General. These were all orders indirectly communicated by the Sengoku Fleet Admiral or other generals. What he now claims to the outside world is that he possesses the powerful ability of the Sealing Fruit. That's why Sengoku Fleet Admiral, who got to know the news, valued me so much that he was willing to mobilize all the high-level combat forces of the Marine headquarters for me. By the way, I haven't given this fake fruit of mine a name yet. If you are not prepared when being interrogated, you will be very smart when facing these Marine senior executives. I'm afraid it will be exposed. It would be fine if he was found not to be a fruit ability user, but what if the secret of the system was discovered? Maybe it will get you into a lot of trouble. In short, let's call it the sealed fruit. The Sengoku Fleet Admiral has already dispatched 3 generals, and I heard that they are even coming in person to support me. There is also the relationship with Granny He. If you want to join the Marine headquarters directly, it should be no problem without going to other Marine branches for a few years like other Marine newcomers. I have to say that before traveling through time, Su Chen really hated people with connections. And now that he has become a relative, Su Chen just feels that being a relative is really awesome. It turns out that people all have double standards. Now that you have joined the Marine, the next step should be how to become a general. He gradually rose to prominence and was promoted step by step to the rank of Marine Admiral. I don't know how many years that will take. Now Straw Hat Boy Luffy has caused a big fuss on Judicial Island and rescued Nico Robin. Ace and Blackbeard also appeared on Banero Island. It seems that if we follow the original plot, the major event of the One Piece story, the Marineford War, should come soon. I'm afraid there's not much time left for myself. Therefore, it is impossible to be promoted to Marine Admiral step by step. Su Chen needs to quickly complete the 3rd punch in and upgrade the system as soon as possible. So now Su Chen only has one choice left. As soon as first return to Marine headquarters. Just show all your strength directly. The senior executives at Marine headquarters took notice. Only in this way can one obtain the rank of general as quickly as possible and go to the Holy Land of Marihoya. Su Chen remembered that to become a Marine Admiral, one needed to be recognized by someone among the Celestial Dragons. Su Chen couldn't remember who it was. Is it the ancient Saint Fegolando Gringo who manages the Knights of God? It should be him. That's when it happened. There was a creaking sound behind Su Chen. A beautiful girl in a hospital gown walked out of the cabin. The visitor was Momosuke Gion. As a Marine Lieutenant General, perhaps she should just be a beauty. After all, Su Chen didn't know this girl who called Grandma his sister. How old is he actually? At this moment, she was wearing a hospital gown, which covered her perfect body curves. But also because of her illness, her expression had a hint of gentleness. Compared with the previous carefree image of the Valkyrie, the contrast is still very big. Su Chen kid, are you okay? Momosuke Gion didn't say much nonsense and just touched Su Chen's head. The two of them had fought against Whitebeard together, so naturally their relationship had become much closer. I'm sure everything will be fine, Momosuke's sister. But you, are you okay? After all, you were knocked unconscious by Whitebeard. Su Chen did not resist at all when Momosuke touched his head. While enjoying the touch of Momosuke's white and smooth palms, I asked about her physical condition. After Su Chen said this, Momosuke's hand, which was originally stroking Su Chen's head, he suddenly froze in place. The corners of her mouth twitched noticeably, as if Su Chen's words had touched her sore spot. After all, Momosuke saw that Whitebeard's domineering and fruit ability were sealed at that time. I made a boast to Su Chen. He said he could just hold off Whitebeard for 30 seconds to buy time for Su Chen. It's so easy and relaxing, my friends. But what is the result? In just 15 seconds, Momosuke Gion, who was in full power, was defeated by the sealed fruit and domineering Whitebeard. Ahem. Little devil, you still talk in the same way that makes me hate you as always. What do you mean by that? It's called a tactical feint. Momosuke Gion felt her pain point was touched, so she simply withdrew the pat on the head from Su Chen. At this time, Momosuke was shocked to find that Su Chen was talking to her while standing. Not in a wheelchair. What's going on? Su Chen learned the art of levitation. A hint of doubt just arose in Momosuke's heart. Then she reacted slowly. It's not that Su Chen has mastered the art of levitation, but that Su Chen's legs have been amputated. It's growing back again. What's going on? Su Chen, your legs. Momosuke wanted to ask why Su Chen's legs had swelled back up again. But because he was so surprised, he couldn't organize his words well and spoke incoherently. Su Chen had already prepared a response to this. To Momosuke, Gion said calmly. This is all thanks to you, Momosuke. The reason why I was so anxious to go to Whitebeard's ship was because I had a hunch that my fruit ability would be inspired and awakened there. Sure enough, my sixth sense was not wrong. My fruit ability has awakened, giving me extraordinary self-healing abilities. Look, the legs just grew out on their own. Momosuke Gion was stunned when he heard Su Chen's nonsense. After all, she was not a fruit ability user, so she could only nod woodenly. I see, that's how it is. What Su Chen didn't notice was. Right now, in a warship in the distance, a middle-aged man wearing a strange seagull hat is using his observation hockey to observe Su Chen and Momosuke's every move. This person is Fleet Admiral Sengoku, the owner of Buddha Fruit. At this moment, the Sengoku Fleet Admiral listened to Su Chen's explanation to Momosuke. He was suddenly speechless and the corners of his mouth twitched. He even cast a look of contempt at Su Chen's position in the distance. A trip to Whitebeard's bow will awaken the fruit. You are fooling around, keep fooling around. Chapter 39 Rayleigh is shocked. Who is this kid arm wrestling with Whitebeard? Red Earth continent. Deep in the dense forest of a remote island. Inside a strange-looking building. President Morgans. We just received a top-level letter from a member of the Banaro Island branch. A member of the newspaper staff. Holding a thick stack of envelopes. He hurriedly trotted over from a distance. What? It's actually a letter of the highest level. Bring it here and show it to me. A strange furry bird wearing a top hat and funny dress. At this moment, he suddenly turned around from the main seat in the office. There was a flash of astonishment in his eyes. He is Morgause, the owner of the animal-type bird fruit, the albatross form fruit. A former member of Roger's pirate group. One of the emperors of the underworld. The president of the big news newspaper. Any one of the above titles can be taken out and placed in the outside world. Those are all incredible existences. After Morgans took the envelope sent by the member, he tore it into pieces. I started reading the contents. Several minutes passed. Morgans finally finished reading the contents. His mouth opened and closed, obviously because the content was too explosive. So shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Big news. This is absolutely huge news. Hurry, guys, big news is coming, everyone, work overtime. By this time tomorrow, I want this news to spread throughout the Red Earth continent. Morgans threw the letter in his hand into the air. Countless pieces of letter paper and photos, like snowflakes, falling from the sky. Take a closer look at one of the photos. This is what happened on Banaro Island. Ace versus Blackbeard's battle. Phoenix Marcos battle with a wheelchair-bound youth whose figure cannot be seen clearly. Whitebeard, one of the four emperors, fights against Marine Vice Admiral Momosuke in Gion. It can be said that except for the final shocking battle between Su Chen and Whitebeard, the rest of the battle was completely filmed by this unknown newspaper reporter. President Morgans, what would be a good name for the headline of the newspaper we're going to publish tomorrow? A member of the newspaper who had followed Morgause for a long time asked very respectfully. Upon hearing this, Morganus touched his hairy chin. Whitebeard, Vice Admiral Marco, Ace of Fire Fist, Vice Admiral Momosuke Gion. Of these famous names, any one of them would be good to be the headline. What a pity. Why didn't we get a photo of the face of this kid in a wheelchair fighting Marco? Forget it, let's just use the battle between Whitebeard and Vice Admiral Marine as tomorrow's front page headline. Send someone down there to investigate the identity of this kid in the wheelchair. I have a feeling that the surprise this kid will bring us later will not be less than that of the Straw Hat Boy Luffy who just caused a big disturbance on Judicial Island. Following Morgause's orders, soon, the headline on the front page was shocking. Whitebeard is old and weak, and is forced into a desperate situation by Vice Admiral Marine. It spread directly throughout the entire Red Earth continent. Countless people at the same time saw this shocking report. Sabayati Islands. With a bang, the door of Shaki's rip-off bar was violently pushed open. Pluton Rayleigh held a bottle of wine in his hand and poured it into his mouth. He just went out to gamble all night and made a killing. Now he is in a very good mood. Rayleigh, have you read today's paper? The bar owner Shaki saw Pluton Rayleigh drunk. There were no surprises. He took out a latest newspaper directly from under the bar counter. What news? Shaki, let me tell you. I played the slot machine yesterday. Rayleigh, let me read this newspaper carefully first. Oh, Pluton Rayleigh was scolded by Shaki, like a primary school student being taught a lesson. He sat obediently at the bar counter. He took a sip of wine casually and began to read the newspaper nonchalantly. Just saw the front page headline of this newspaper. Pluton Rayleigh's drunkenness disappeared completely in an instant. There was a glimmer in his eyes. It has been hidden for decades. Pluton Rayleigh quickly read the entire front page of the newspaper. Then he slammed the newspaper directly onto the bar counter. Shaki, what's going on? What happened on Banaro Island? The news in this newspaper is pure bullshit. Even before his death, the strength displayed by Whitebeard was definitely not something a mere Marine Vice Admiral could challenge. As Marine preparing to siege the Whitebeard pirates, Pluton Rayleigh's eyes were full of solemnity. An aura of majesty without even being angry emanated from him. It's just a little bit of breath leakage. Just let all living things within a few kilometers radius. Everyone felt a chill. Shaki didn't answer Rayleigh's question right away. Instead, he took a puff of the cigarette in his hand. Then he spoke slowly. The one that beat Ace and Marco. It's a young man. As for his identity, it seems almost certain that he is from Marine. The person who fought Whitebeard was not Momosuke Gion at all. Shaki took another puff of his cigarette, paused, and continued. That woman was defeated after a few moves with Whitebeard. The one who fought Whitebeard afterwards was always the young man whose face could not be seen clearly in the news. The fight between the two made quite a noise. I heard that the entire island was almost sunk by them. It seemed that the two of them hadn't decided who was the winner, and the Marine executives arrived, apparently to protect the kid. Rayleigh listened to what Shaki said. His face was full of disbelief. He directly held the newspaper in front of Shaki and pointed at the photo of Su Chen and Marco fighting. Are you kidding me, Shaki? Although this photo doesn't clearly capture the kid's appearance. But it can be seen that this kid is no more than 30 years old. Do you understand what this means? And he's in a wheelchair. No normal person would be so bored as to sit in a wheelchair in a combat situation, right? For someone so young to be able to defeat a Vice-Emperor level being like Marco is already a terrifying thing. And now you're telling me that he can actually fight Whitebeard and the outcome is evenly matched. Shaki shrugged helplessly and said, this is the truth. Over the years, have the intelligence sources I provided you ever been wrong? Rayleigh felt a little nervous after hearing Shaki's criticism. Adam's apple rolling. I swallowed subconsciously. He brought the newspaper to his eyes again and read it carefully. It seems to be true. The information provided by Shaki seems to have never been wrong. Could it be that this young kid in a wheelchair whose appearance could not be seen clearly really possessed such terrifying strength at such a young age? Can he arm wrestle Whitebeard? Chapter 40 Akainu disdains. Su Chen is not inferior to Whitebeard at the age of 20, so am I not a waste. The next day, the sun is high in the sky. Inside the cabin, the three generals of the Sengoku Fleet Admiral and the Marine were sitting in the meeting room. And the center stood. It was Momosuke who had changed back into her Marine uniform. Lieutenant General Momosuke, I must make something clear to you. What happened on Banero Island is very important to us in the Marine. If there is any fabrication in the information you report, it will lead to very serious consequences. Do you understand? Marine Admiral Aokiji, who was sitting nearby, said this with a serious expression. Momosuke Gion, who was standing in the center, nodded. Yes, as a lieutenant general, I clearly understand the consequences of making up stories in my report. So, sirs, Momosuke took a deep breath and continued. I guarantee with my life that every word I wrote in the report I submitted is true. I heard Momosuke say this. Akainu Kasusuke, who was standing by, had a flash of anger on his face. Momosuke Gion, do you really think Marine is a game? Su Chen's fruit ability is indeed amazing, but how can he defeat Marco, whose bounty is over 1 billion? And he fought Whitebeard to a draw. Are you taking us for fools? Kizaru seemed quite happy to see Akainu getting angry. He picked his ears and had no intention of speaking. Yes, General Kasusuke. Just as I said in the report I submitted to you, although Su Chen is only in his 20s. But the strength he showed in front of me far surpassed mine. Whether it's in terms of combat experience or talent. He is a genius, a 1 in a million genius. Zhang Guo coughed. Interrupt Momosuke Gion's words. He picked up the report on the table and said. So, Lieutenant General Momosuke. You mean to say that the person who defeated Ace and Blackbeard, as well as the Vice President Marco with a bounty of more than 1 billion, and helped Akainu and Kizaru delay Whitebeard was not you? But he is the grandson of Chief of Staff He, is that right? Momosuke Gion nodded. After the three generals saw Momosuke Gion's answer, they all showed an expression of, are you kidding me? Okay, I have received your report in full. You can go back now. After Zhang Guo finished speaking, he simply closed his eyes. Seems to be feeling something. Momosuke pursed her lips. She was very aware that the three admirals and Fleet Admiral Sengoku did not believe in her. But in the end she didn't choose to defend herself. After bowing deeply to the few people, he left the cabin directly. Wait until Momosuke Gion is far away. Aokiji stood up directly. He said to Zhang Guo. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, I know the character of Vice Admiral Momosuke. Although this matter is indeed outrageous, I am still willing to believe Vice Admiral Momosuke. Akainu heard this and sneered. I really like this boy. He is indeed very good. Facing Whitebeard and the likes of us, he was able to remain calm and not show any fear. This is already beyond most people of his age. I just admit that he is a talented person with great potential, and he can at least become a lieutenant general in the future. But do you really think it's possible to fight Whitebeard and end in a draw? Let's not talk about Whitebeard. When you were Su Chen's age, could you last more than 5 minutes in front of Vice Admiral Marine? Although Akainu likes this boy Su Chen very much. But private is private, and public is public. Akainu, who upholds absolute justice, will never favor Su Chen on issues of this level. Kizaru was still holding his ears, as if he didn't want to get involved in this matter at all. And finally, Zhang Guo slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes at this moment, there was a flash of surprise. It was as if he had learned something extremely exaggerated. Momosuke didn't lie. The Warring States period announced the outcome. Just after Momosuke Gion handed the outrageous report to Sengoku. Sengoku secretly used his observation haki on Momosuke Gion. As one of the strongest marines, Sengoku has mastered the use of observation haki to perfection. Not to mention being able to glimpse the future in a short period of time, at least it can be used to determine whether the other person is lying, without any problem. What? That little girl didn't lie. Akainu stood up immediately. He looked at Zhang Guo with a frown. Are you serious? Su Chen has the strength to fight Whitebeard, so doesn't that mean he has at least the strength of a quasi-admiral? Warring States period. Obviously, Zhang Guo was also very shocked by this result. Yes, there is no trace of lying in Momosuke. But this doesn't mean that Chief of Staff He's grandson is so powerful. Do you really think I would believe that a kid in his 20s has the strength to rival a Marine Admiral? At this time, Kizaru finally spoke. You're so long-winded. Whether Su Chen has the strength of a general or not, we can test him after we go back. There's no need to discuss this for so long. I'm a little tired already. Although no one responded to what Kizaru said. But they all agreed in their hearts. We will be returning to Marin Fendo soon. We will know how strong Su Chen is when we test him. Zhang Guo took a deep breath. Look up at the ceiling in the cabin. Yes, when we get back, let Garp find out more about Su Chen. The key to the problem now is not Su Chen. What I'm worried about is. Yes, Vice Admiral Momosuke. Is it possible that the memory has been modified? Zhang Guo expressed his guess. Everyone present frowned slightly. He is able to say such outrageous things and even pass the Sengoku Fleet Admiral's observation haki. It is indeed very likely that people in Momosuke Gion have been brainwashed. Everyone present had seen many big scenes. Although I think modifying memory is outrageous, I don't think it is impossible. If this happens, Momosuke Gion will no longer be able to continue serving as Marine Vice Admiral. Otherwise, if something uncontrollable happens, I'm afraid there will be a big disturbance at the Marine headquarters. That's when it happened. The door of the cabin was kicked open. Everyone present looked towards the door in unison. The person who came was Garp. He missed Tang's trip to support Su Chen, which resulted in him being bored and moldy on the boat. What are you doing, Garp? Zhang Guo raised his eyebrows, obviously a little angry. After all, before the meeting, he had specifically asked Garp whether he wanted to attend. As a result, Garp thought it was boring and rejected it directly. But why are you here to cause trouble now? Garp came to Warring States with a swagger. He directly handed a newspaper to Zhang Guo. This is. Looking at the newspaper in front of me. Zhang Guo was a little confused. He knew this newspaper. It is a global newspaper published by the World News Agency founded by Morgans, one of the emperors of the underground world. But the question is, what does Garp do for his own newspaper? Just as Zhang Guo was about to ask, he caught a glimpse of a photo in the corner of the newspaper out of the corner of his eye. A young man in a wheelchair is fighting with the Phoenix Marco. Although the young man couldn't see his face clearly, he could clearly feel it. This person still has enough strength to face Marco's attack. In an instant, a look of great shock flashed across Zhang Guo's eyes. He lost his voice. This can't be. Is he the grandson of Chief of Staff Suru? Chapter 41. Su Chen is too good. Garp and Akainu almost came to blows. Inside the cabin, among the three admirals Kizaru, Aokiji and Akainu, it was the first time I saw Sengoku with such a shocked expression. After all, it was the Warring States Fleet Admiral. In front of them, he always appeared to be a shrewd person. A wise general who never shows his emotions. How could he look so shocked? Fleet Admiral, what on earth happened? Aokiji couldn't hold back his doubts and asked. Garp also laughed when he saw this. I almost forgot about you guys. Aokiji, take it and have a look. He directly took out another newspaper from his trouser pocket and threw it to Aokiji. Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji didn't waste any time and directly spread the newspaper on the table. Three people watched together. The first thing that catches your eye is the front page headline of the newspaper. Shocked. Whitebeard is old and weak, and is forced into a desperate situation by Vice Admiral Marine. There is also a picture accompanying the article. It was the scene of Momosuke and Gion, holding Kanpira in hand, about to fight Whitebeard. I have to say that the person who took the photo has great composition skills. Momosuke Gion and Whitebeard are on the left and right. It seems that both sides are equally strong. But at this moment, when the three generals saw the headline of this article, they were all speechless. No matter how old and weak Whitebeard is, he can still rely on his tremor fruit. There is no way he could be matched by the current Marine Vice Admiral Momosuke Gion. Especially Aokiji, since Momoshiki is directly under his jurisdiction. He was particularly clear about Momoshiki Gion's strength. Therefore, Aokiji could even imagine the tragic scene of Momoshiki being run away in Gion after this scene. Warring States Fleet Admiral, is this why you're shocked? Aokiji frowned slightly, obviously not understanding. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Look here. This kid is really impressive. Kizaru smiled frivolously, then pointed his finger at the corner of the newspaper. There is also an accompanying picture here. Aokiji and Akainu shift their gazes. What he saw was the scene where Su Chen, who was sitting in a wheelchair, easily blocked Marco's attack with one hand. Although in the picture, Su Chen was sitting in a wheelchair and his face could not be seen clearly. But the few people who had seen Su Chen's true face still recognized it as Su Chen at a glance. So shocking. Su Chen was actually able to take on the attack of a deputy emperor-level warrior with one hand. You know, this is the second in command of the Whitebeard pirates. The Phoenix Marco with a bounty of more than 1 billion berries. Suddenly, Akainu's pupils shrank suddenly. He had previously participated in the operation to capture Ace and Marco with Kizaru. He had a rough idea of Marco's strength. Marco was obviously no match for him at that time, but the gap was not that big. At least he is stronger than Momoshiki Gion, who is a quasi-admiral. His strength is higher than that of Momoshiki Gion. A strong man of this level, Su Chen was actually able to take on the opponent's attack with one hand. If there were no photos to prove it, Akainu would never believe it. Look at this photo of Marco with flames all over his body. It's obvious that he has used all his strength. That's when it happened. Akainu suddenly recalled the record report submitted by Momoshiki Gion earlier. It doesn't just say that Su Chen defeated Marco and Ace. While he and Kizaru were capturing Ace, Su Chen was fighting Whitebeard. Yo, Kasasaki, do you still remember the aura that erupted in the distance when you and I were capturing Fire Fist Ace and Phoenix Bird Marco? At this time, Kizaru reminded Akainu. Akainu recalled the scene. That terrifying aura coming from far away. Instantly, Akainu's expression changed. After Kizaru's reminder, he immediately understood. This is probably what Momoshiki Gion mentioned in the record report. Whitebeard's earth-shattering battle power. Akainu was originally a little confused about who Whitebeard was fighting against. He subconsciously ignored Su Chen, who was on the deck of the pirate ship at that time. After all, Su Chen looks too young. Looking back now, everything made sense. Fighting with Whitebeard, he helped buy time for himself and Kizaru to capture Ace Marco. It's Su Chen, the grandson of Chief of Staff Crane. Because of shock, Akainu's chest heaved violently. It's like being in a war. Then, a hint of heat appeared in his eyes. Good boy, you have such strong strength at such a young age. There is still such a responsibility. Good, good, good. I must make this kid join the Marine. Fleet Admiral, I recommend Su Chen to be the Lieutenant General of our Marine. With his ability, it is no problem for him to be the Marine Admiral. As long as he is mentally mature, he can be the 4th Admiral of the Marine at any time. I hope you can agree to my request. After Su Chen joins Marine, I must teach him personally. Akainu wasn't done yet. He was interrupted by Garp. Garp glanced at Akainu, who looked very excited and said unhappily. Kasasaki, can you teach people? I think it's better for me to do it. After all, I have a lot of experience in education. Aokiji was brought up by me. Akainu saw that Garp actually wanted to compete with him for the right to teach Su Chen. He immediately became angry and said without giving in. Garp, don't take advantage of your seniority to steal my people. I was the one who saved Chief of Staff He's grandson. This guy is exactly what I like. I will never give Su Chen to you no matter what. Besides, Akainu sneered when he said this. Your education level is really impressive. Monkey D. Dragon, Straw Hat Boy Luffy, Fire Fist Ace. Garp, look at your sons and grandsons, what kind of people they are. Su Chen is a rough gem that will never be handed over to someone like you. Akainu raised his chin sharply, obviously not afraid of Garp at all. What did you say, Kasasaki, do you want to be beaten? Garp's past was exposed, and he got a little bit hot. He immediately clenched his fists, as if he was going to attack Akainu at any time. After all, the son he had painstakingly educated became the leader of the Revolutionary Army. The two grandsons, Ace and Luffy, became pirates with bounties exceeding 100 million. Everyone, just be quiet. Sengoku saw Garp and Akainu quarreling and immediately scolded them. The grandson of Chief of Staff Crane has not yet been subject to an internal review. Although Su Chen has been taken care of by Chief of Staff He for so many years, we don't know his background at the moment. Where did his devil fruit come from? Who are his parents, and whether he has any connection with some organization in the sea, we must find out all these. After the CP organization has verified that there is indeed no problem with Su Chen's background. Let me think. Zhang Guo thought for a moment before continuing. You all want to guide Su Chen, so just be his teacher together. Chapter 42 World Line Changes. Kobe becomes Garp's apprentice ahead of time. Proposal for Sengoku Fleet Admiral. Everyone present, except Kizaru, had no objection. Soon, Sengoku Fleet Admiral contacted the world government directly through Den Den Mushi. Ask the CP organization to investigate Su Chen's background. In particular, we need to figure out where Su Chen's devil fruit came from. After all, this ability to seal the devil fruit and domineering is a bit too heaven-defying. Time flies. 7 full days passed, because it was a request made by Marine Fleet Admiral Sengoku himself. World government attaches great importance to it. The CP organization was immediately dispatched to begin investigating Su Chen's background. But nothing very useful was found. I just found out about Su Chen's biological parents. Just the average worker in the white town of North Blue. It has nothing to do with the forces on the sea. And the year before staff officer he picked up Su Chen, he died in a riot in North Blue. Strictly speaking, Su Chen should be considered an orphan now. Regarding the so-called sealing fruit that Su Chen took, there is not a single bit of news. There were no relevant clues at all. Zongguo was also very helpless about this and could only conclude that Su Chen had accidentally eaten a devil fruit when he was a child. But no matter what, Su Chen's background has been investigated. Very clean. Then, Sengoku contacted Akainu and Garp. Tell the two of them that they can now start preparing to teach Su Chen. Bang bang bang. There was a knock on the door of the room. I heard someone knocking on the door. Su Chen slowly opened his eyes. Subconsciously, he looked out the window of the room. At this moment, the moon is bright outside. It's not daybreak yet. Su Chen raised his eyebrows. Who on earth is knocking on my door at this hour? Subconsciously, he used his observation hockey and headed towards the door. I saw someone knocking on my door. Su Chen couldn't help but be stunned. It's Kirby. Appointed by One Piece author Oda, he is the counterpart to Luffy among the new generation of Marines. Why would this guy knock on his door in the middle of the night? Su Chen simply put on a coat and opened the door. What's the matter? Su Chen's expression was calm, and he did not show any emotion of knowing Kobe. Hello. Hello. The door was pushed open, and Kobe spoke to Su Chen somewhat stiffly. I'm Kobe, a Marine ensign from the Marine headquarters. I'm so sorry to bother you so late at night. I am here on the orders of Lieutenant General Garp to ask you to go to the training base in the back mountains. I heard that it was Garp who was looking for me to go to the training base in the back mountain. Su Chen was not surprised. A full week has passed since I returned to the Marine headquarters. During this period, Momosuke Gion and Granny Suru came to see me. No one has ever looked for me. And he is not allowed to walk around the Marine headquarters at will. Obviously, this is checking my background. Now, Garp comes to see me in the middle of the night. Let's go to the training base in the back mountain of Marine headquarters. The meaning is very clear. My political review has ended. Now I can start allocating resources to myself, a person with extraordinary talent. The first step was to directly send Garp as his teacher. This is really a big deal. Su Chen couldn't help but smack his lips when he thought of this. After all, Garp is a guy who was taught by others, and they are all well-known big shots. The most famous ones are, of course, Luffy and Marine Admiral Aokiji. However, Garp's training is extremely difficult. Su Chen was not worried about this. After all, his current strength is at least close to the level of a general. It's impossible that he couldn't pass Garp's assessment. Moreover, because his opponent was Garp, Su Chen could fully display his fists and feet. Expose all your strength and show it to the top management of Marine. This will help you become a Marine general. Take this opportunity to sign in at the office of the 5 elders in Marihoya. Su Chen was thinking quickly in his mind. But he also asked Kobe in front of him about the doubts in his heart. Captain Kobe, I want to know what is the relationship between you and Vice Admiral Garp. Why did Lieutenant General Garp ask you to call me in the middle of the night? Regarding Kobe now appearing at the door of his room. Su Chen was very confused. Although Kobe later became Garp's last disciple, that was after the Battle of Marineford. Now he should be an unknown existence. I should quietly gain experience together with my good friend Belmir. Hearing Su Chen's question, Kobe answered without hesitation. That's right, Mr. Su Chen. I was noticed by Master Garp while I was on a mission some time ago. The master said that I have some special qualities, so he specially recruited me and Belmir as his disciples. Su Chen roughly understood the current situation. Perhaps it was because he traveled to the world of pirates and changed the original course of history. This resulted in a butterfly effect, which affected the subsequent plot. This is how Kobe, who did nothing, was discovered by Garp. As a result, he was recruited as a disciple in advance. It seems that I need to be more careful when acting in the world of One Piece from now on. Try not to disrupt the original plot, otherwise. My greatest reliance on predicting future events has now become ineffective. After thinking through a series of things, Su Chen said to Kobe. Since it's Lieutenant General Garp who's looking for me, let's quickly head to the training base in the back mountains. Captain Kirby, please lead the way for me. Now Su Chen has no marine rank and is completely idle. Naturally, the suffix, captain, is added to Kobe's name. But this word, Captain, made Kobe feel extremely nervous. Although Su Chen had never demonstrated his strength, Kobe could clearly feel it. The aura of a strong man on Su Chen. Mr. Su Chen, you should just call me Kebi. It won't be long before you have a corresponding military position. I really can't bear to be called captain or something like that. I came here this time just to show you the way. Kobe directly pointed Su Chen in a direction. This is the direction, please follow me. But at this moment, a huge explosion sounded at the location where Kobe pointed. Boom. Even if the location is far away from the explosion point, Su Chen still felt a strong hurricane at the location where he was. If it weren't for the solid building of Marine headquarters. Otherwise, this hurricane alone would probably cause considerable damage. Warning, warning, warning. An abnormal situation has been detected. Please be ready for battle at any time. An abnormal situation has been detected. Please be ready for battle at any time. An abnormal situation has been detected. Please be ready for battle at any time. The Marine headquarters loudspeaker blared. The blinding red warning light flashes all around. When I saw the place I was pointing at, a violent explosion occurred. Kirby was immediately horrified. It's the location of the training base. What the hell happened there? Chapter 43. Kobe realized that the gap between Su Chen and himself was like a chasm. After that big explosion sounded, several more explosions occurred. Because he was very worried, Kebi went as fast as possible. He took Su Chen to the training base at the back of Marine. After Kebi took Su Chen into the training base, only the two of them knew what happened. First saw the Marine hero Lieutenant General Garp, who was not dealing with General Akainu at the moment. The huge explosion just now was obviously caused by the two people. It must have been a fight. Su Chen looked around the training base at the back of Marine. The surrounding defensive buildings are all made of solid stainless steel. Obviously the defense is extremely powerful. After being absorbed by such defense facilities, it can also cause sound that affects the entire Marine headquarters. Akainu and Garp are obviously really angry. Su Chen thought for a moment, but he never thought about why the two of them were fighting. But soon, as Kebi led him gradually closer to the direction of the two of them, the quarrel between the two was immediately caught by Su Chen's ears. Only inside the training base, Akainu stared at Garp fiercely and said, Garp, you openly betrayed the rules set by the Warring States period. I really didn't expect that the mighty Marine hero would be so mean. As agreed, Su Chen will have my first coaching session this morning. But you actually stopped me halfway and sent someone to call Su Chen in the middle of the night. Do you really think I don't know? No matter what happens today, the first person to guide Su Chen must be me. Garp found out that his little plan was exposed by Akainu. He looked to the side guiltily and whistled. What's wrong, Akainu? I didn't blatantly violate the rules set by the Warring States period. As I said, your guidance to Su Chen started this morning. Then I think Su Chen is a teachable brat. If I give him extra lessons in advance, there won't be any problem. Anyway, the Warring States period allocated Su Chen time for your guidance and training. I won't compete with you. So you should go back quickly. Su Chen will probably be there soon. Otherwise, if we see the two of us fighting over a brat like him, there will be no room for my old face. Seeing how stubborn Garp was, Akainu took a puff of cigarette. The Hawaiian vacation shirt covered all over his body began to gradually transform into lava. Okay, Garp, it seems that you are really not sure to take it seriously. That's the case. Let's just talk with our fists. Let me teach you a lesson for this disrespectful old man. I heard the conversation between Akainu and Garp in the training base. Su Chen subconsciously stopped. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Through the conversation, Su Chen fully understood what happened. The co-authors turned out to be Garp and Akainu, who were vying to teach me. Warring States Fleet Admiral said that starting this morning, Akainu began to teach himself. Then it's Garp's turn. As a result, Garp was very unruly and cut off his beard in the middle of the night. Kirby was sent to find him. Thinking of this, Su Chen couldn't help but think. Why do Akainu and Garp want to teach themselves first? It can't be for the sake of preconceptions and leaving a good impression on yourself. Just when Su Chen stopped, Kebi next to him had a puzzled look on his face. He is not as powerful as Su Chen, and in terms of developing and using the knowledge, he cannot compare to Su Chen, a guy who directly copied Momoshiki Gion's strength. At this moment, Kebi and Su Chen were still not far away from the training base. Naturally, he couldn't hear the conversation inside. So naturally I don't know what happened, let alone why Su Chen stopped. Mr. Su Chen, do you have any questions? It's okay, let's go over there quickly. Otherwise, I'm afraid these two people will get angry and really fight. Su Chen came back to his senses after being reminded by Kobe. He quickened his pace towards the training base. Kobe was left standing there with a confused look on his face. What two people? What arguing? What fighting? What exactly happened inside the training base? Kobe was confused, but saw that Su Chen had already taken the lead. I quickly chased after him. Getting closer and closer to the training base. Kobe finally heard the sound of internal quarreling. It turned out to be Master Garp and Akainu, one of the three generals. Only now did he understand. What exactly did Su Chen mean by what he just said to me? But the two of them still have a long time to go before they reach the training base. Even from such a distance, I can clearly hear the sounds inside the base. This is probably what Master Garp said, the use of the power of observation hockey. Thinking of this, Kobe couldn't help but take a breath. Although he could clearly feel the strong aura from Su Chen. But after all, Su Chen is about the same age as me. So naturally, Kobe did not imagine Su Chen's strength to be so exaggerated. At most, he was regarded as a talented young man who was worthy of Marine's training. But now this little thing has made the gap between the two sides clear. Su Chen's strength far exceeds his current self. There is absolutely no realm between the two of them. At present, I haven't even mastered the Marine 6 styles, let alone the development and use of observation hockey. After Kobe thought about it, Su Chen started training with Master Garp. The two of them can almost be considered brothers from the same school. Suddenly, his attitude towards Su Chen became even more respectful. Just when Kobe was about to say a few nice words to Su Chen to deepen the relationship between them, he was shocked to find out. Su Chen, who had originally had a calm expression, now had a serious look in his eyes. He stopped. Slowly raise your right arm to the side of your body. He opened his palms and protected himself and Kobe behind him. This look made Kobe feel a little confused. He couldn't help but ask. Mr. Su Chen, what's wrong? Just when Kobe's voice had not yet completely fallen. The terrifying blast suddenly erupted from the training base. It's like a grenade exploded right in the face. The wind is howling. The terrifying shock wave directly enveloped Kobe and Su Chen. In an instant, Kobe felt dizzy. It felt like the sky was falling. He didn't know what was going on. I don't even know how to respond now. Kirby, at this moment, there was only one thing left on my mind. It's over. And inside the training base, Akainu and Garp fought again, and their bodies suddenly collided with each other. But at this time, two familiar auras were captured by the observation hockey that automatically emanated from them. It was the aura of Su Chen and Kobe. Suddenly, Garp and Akainu's expressions suddenly changed. Chapter 44 Su Chen. Garp Akainu, you two come together. Garp felt the door. When Su Chen and Kobe appeared. My heart sank. Because I was angry just now and a little dizzy. Therefore, he did not hold back at all when punching Akainu. Although Akainu would feel uncomfortable for a while after receiving this punch from him. But Akainu, as a Marine admiral, certainly has no impact on him. But Kobe is different from Su Chen. Su Chen Garp has never actually come into contact with it, so he doesn't understand it. But Garp knew Kobe's strength very well. Facing the aftermath of his and Akainu's attacks at close range. Just a moment of contact. It is a horrific injury that can cause brain damage. It is normal to lie in bed for 2 or 3 months. Some people may even suffer a concussion and become a vegetable. Garp also thought it was not excessive. So he immediately separated from Akainu. Rushed towards the location outside the door where Su Chen and Kobe's auras appeared. Akainu on the side. His complexion was also very bad. Although I know that Su Chen can fight against Whitebeard and even defeat Marco. This strength surpassed that of Vice Admiral Momosugi, and it was not easy for him to withstand the aftermath of the attacks from both himself and Garp. But it's definitely okay. The problem is, does Su Chen have enough energy to defend Kobe? Most likely it won't work. Akainu recalled that when he was only a quasi-admiral, he faced Garp and fought against a strong admiral. Can I really take care of my teammates while defending? Think of this. Akainu frowned and took a deep puff of the cigar in his mouth. He also walked towards Su Chen and Kobe. He was walking and scratching his hair. This is going to be difficult. It seems that Kobe is quite important to Garp. If anything happened to this kid, it would be hard for me to explain myself. I thought so in my heart. Akainu also followed Garp and came to the location where Su Chen and Kobe's auras were. The air was filled with dust. It blocks the line of sight and makes it difficult for people to see clearly what is in front of them. Akainu and Garp fought, creating a shock wave. Make the ground a mess. Kirby, Su Chen, are you two brats okay? Hey, hey, hey. Garp shouted in a panic. No response. Su Chen and Kobe, are they not dead? This thought came into Garp's mind. In an instant, Garp's heart, which had been hanging in the air, fell to the bottom. That's when it happened. The direction of vision is unclear. The sound of Kobe coughing was heard. Cough, cough, cough. Master Garp, we're fine. Garp heard the sound and was overjoyed. In one step he arrived at the location of the sound. Akainu, who was standing by, raised his right hand slightly towards the sky. Hot magma appeared in his hands. Lots of heat, allowing air to flow quickly. A gust of wind was summoned, quickly blowing away the dust and dirt that was blocking the view. The figures of Su Chen and Kobe suddenly appeared before his eyes. Su Chen's expression remained unchanged. He stood in front of Kobe. Except for the clothes on his body, which became a little torn due to the shock wave. He was unharmed. The right hand still remained suspended in midair. A layer of faint fluorescence appeared from his body. In the palm of his hand, a ball of insubstantial energy appeared. It was the two major echo abilities, Break All Laws, and Heaven's Movement, that were activated. Compared to Su Chen's calmness at this moment, Kobe behind him looked extremely embarrassed. His whole body was covered with wounds and his clothes were torn. Kobe was half squatting on the ground, with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Judging from his appearance, he was at least seriously injured. Seeing this, Garp stepped forward to check on Kobe's condition. After finding out that the injury was indeed not life-threatening, I felt relieved. 2 broken ribs, no big deal. At this time, the soldiers of the Marine headquarters gathered here. After discovering Garp and Akainu, they bowed respectfully and asked Garp what was going on. Garp did not answer, but instead asked them to take Kobe to the infirmary for treatment. Seeing that Garp did not tell them what happened here, the Marine soldiers did not dare to ask. He had no choice but to follow Garp's orders and take the injured Kobe to the medical department of Marine headquarters for treatment. Send Kobe away. Garp turned his gaze to Su Chen. He used a little bit of his domineering power to feel Su Chen's current state. Garp is more than just an eye-catcher. This kid is amazing. Face the aftermath of his battle with Akainu. Not only did he help Kobe bear most of the shock wave, but he also did not suffer any injuries other than some damage to his clothes. There is no change in expression. This kid's state of mind is not something that ordinary people can compare to. Garp's inner evaluation of Su Chen improved a lot. After all, the performance that Su Chen showed him now was much better than that of his 2 grandsons Ace and Luffy, who were about the same age. However, it is obvious that Su Chen is still not very proficient in the use of domineering power. Garp could sense it. If Su Chen had been able to use armament hockey skillfully just now, then the clothes on Su Chen will not be damaged at all. He immediately said to Su Chen, "Boy, you did a great job. I now understand why Akainu has been thinking about you so much. Take a break. I will start targeted training on you in a moment. Your armament hockey still has a lot of room for improvement. Let me check it for you." And at this time, Akainu standing by also finished smoking a cigar. He casually threw the cigar aside. He looked at Garp unhappily. "Hey, Garp, Zhongguo said that I am responsible for Su Chen today. You keep saying that Su Chen's domineering aura is not good and needs to be improved. Among the new generation of Marines, is there anyone who can match this kid's armament hockey? How much do you know about Su Chen's situation now? What are his strengths now, and what are his weaknesses that need to be addressed? You don't know anything, but you just give this kid some random instructions. I don't think you are qualified to guide this kid." Akainu sneered. "I think it would be best if I were responsible for all of Su Chen's training from now on. After all, if you train Su Chen, this rough diamond, to become someone like Fire Fist Ace or Straw Hat Boy, we Marines will have a headache." Garp was once again hit in the sore spot by Akainu. It is a red temperature visible to the naked eye. He squeezed both hands. It seemed like the next moment we would be fighting with Akainu again. That's when it happened. Su Chen coughed, attracting the attention of the two. "You two, since you both want to guide me. If time permits, let's go together." Chapter 45. Akainu is confused, trying to find out your bottom line. You are planning to get Garp. Garp heard Su Chen's words. He was obviously stunned for a moment, and then he reacted. Su Chen wants Akainu and I to teach him at the same time. Greedy boy. But Garp is not annoying. Then Garp burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, interesting boy. So greedy. That's fine with me. Kososki is a very narrow-minded person. If he agrees, then it's fine." Akainu, who was standing by, heard this and snorted coldly. He threw the finished cigar directly on the ground and stepped on it with his shoes. "That's fine with me. But boy, you want both of us to train you at the same time. This means that your training intensity will at least double. Are you sure you can handle it?" Akainu reminded Su Chen. The two of them originally made a training plan for Su Chen. That is not something that ordinary people can endure, and now Su Chen wants to join in. That kind of training intensity is not enough even for a prospective great player like Momosuke. Not necessarily able to bear it. But this is not a difficult task for Su Chen. After all, Su Chen possesses the power of heavenly movement. Even if you are forced into a state of exhaustion, you can still recover quickly. Su Chen nodded, said to the two of them, "No problem, General Akainu. Let's go together." When Akainu heard this, a smile appeared on his face. But this smiling expression is really ugly. "In that case, kid. Let me test your abilities first and see what your current strength is like. Garp, don't hold back. Come with me and see what this boy is capable of." Garp also laughed and said, "Kid, if you can't bear it, remember to say the words of surrender before you pass out." After saying that, Garp's figure disappeared from the spot. It only takes a blink of an eye. He has already come in front of Su Chen. Launched an attack on Su Chen. The fist rapidly grew larger in front of Su Chen. However, Garp did not use hockey and fruit power. After all, this is just a test, not a real life and death duel. They just use their fists for normal attacks. Ordinary people absolutely cannot bear it. Not to mention two people attacking at the same time. Garp also wanted to embarrass Su Chen. After all, Su Chen had been standing there calmly and coolly. Garp wanted to use this opportunity to tell Su Chen. The battle in the pirate world is brutal. No one will wait until you are fully prepared before attacking you. Akainu, who was standing by, saw Garp sneak attack Su Chen. A look of speechlessness flashed across his face. You are the marine hero who has fought against rocks. Is it necessary to launch a sneak attack against a junior? Although no domineering was used. But how could Su Chen react? Although he was extremely talented, he had only recovered from his vegetative state in the ward a few days ago. Even if he had been training for combat since the womb. That can't keep up with Garp's current sneak attack. Garp also said that he was narrow-minded, which was obviously a problem among the senior management of Marine. He is the one with the smallest heart. Akainu thinks. Next, Su Chen will be caught by Garp and beaten up. This is the hope for Marine's rise. You can beat Garp, but don't beat him too hard. If any problems arise, he must help Su Chen to deal with it immediately. Akainu held his breath and looked in the direction of Su Chen. As expected, the situation where Su Chen was beaten up by Garp did not occur. Su Chen was seen with his hands on his chest. The dark domineering energy has completely wrapped around his arm. The three people present were very familiar with this domineering aura. It's armed color domineering. Su Chen relied on the use of armament hockey to forcibly block Garp's sneak attack. But Su Chen didn't feel very good either. The whole person staggered back 2 or 3 steps. It was the power brought by Garp's fist that was neutralized. This is how Garp's sneak attacks are handled. It directly shocked Garp and Akainu. They really would not take this level of attack seriously. The problem is that for Su Chen now, it is already very fatal. Facing the sneak attack from a general-level strongman, he just took a few steps back and did not suffer any injuries. If you tell me, it will probably shock the whole new generation of Marine headquarters. Moreover, what surprised Akainu and Garp? Garp gave Su Chen time to defend. Definitely less than a second. In such a short period of time, he can use armed color hockey to defend. This level of control over domineering is no less than that of some lieutenant general level experts who have been fighting for many years. Good boy, what a surprise. But I was surprised. Garp didn't forget that this time he took action. It's to find out the details of this guy Su Chen. If we don't force Su Chen into a desperate situation, how can we know what level Su Chen's true potential can reach? It seems so far, the potential unleashed by Su Chen has already exceeded that of Fire Fist Ace. But compared to Luffy, I don't know who is more evil in terms of fighting talent. Garp was thinking in his mind. The entire figure shot out in the direction of Su Chen again. He caught Su Chen's stiffness when he took 2 steps back. Another punch came towards Su Chen's life gate. This time, his fist was already wrapped in black domineering energy. The same as the domineering entanglement of armed colors. With the blessing of domineering power, Garp's fist has turned into an iron fist. The power index level is rising rapidly. In almost an instant, he had reached the level of a general taking full action. This was straight away for Akainu, who was watching from the sidelines. A hint of worry flashed in his eyes. It was too difficult for Su Chen to face Garp's level of attack. I'm afraid it's hard to resist. Akainu remembered that Su Chen possessed a sealed fruit that could eliminate domineering power and fruit abilities. Facing Marco Firefist Ace and even Whitebeard. They are both strong men who are better at using devil fruits. Su Chen was able to keep up with them when fighting against them, and there was some element of trickery involved. But facing a pure physical combat warrior like Garp. Even if Garp's domineering ability is sealed, it is still a headache for the powerful generals. A big question mark appeared in Akainu's mind. Facing Garp's attack, can Su Chen really block it? If it cannot be stopped, will Su Chen suffer from a disease that cannot be recovered? Think of this. His exclusive Hawaiian shirt began to turn into lava bit by bit. This is Akainu ready to take action at any moment. At the same time, Garp's black iron fist is less than 1 meter away from Su Chen. In a battle between general-level warriors, this is no different from sticking to the face. Garp discovered it at this time. My fists are almost touching my face. Su Chen didn't even respond. If this continues, Su Chen may be seriously injured by his own punch. Although Su Chen fatly beat up Ace in the fire ring, it made Garp, a grandfather, very unhappy. But I just came to test Su Chen's strength, not really to beat Su Chen to relieve his anger. It was at this moment that Garp suddenly realized. Su Chen went from being in a vegetative state with a tube inserted in the hospital bed to now being able to fight against himself. But only a few days have passed. Su Chen had almost no fighting experience. It's because I criticized Su Chen too harshly. This fist of my own must avoid Su Chen's life gate. Thinking of this, Garp blasted the iron fist that was originally aimed at Su Chen's head. It moved 30 centimeters, although this will cause some harm to Su Chen. But it will definitely not cause serious damage. That was the moment when Garp changed the direction of Iron Fist. Akainu, who is not far away, is always observing the movements of the battlefield. But he was shocked to find the corner of Su Chen's mouth. A sly smile showed that the plan had succeeded. Akainu couldn't help but have such an idea in his heart. This kid is plotting against Garp. Chapter 46. Akainu's eyes were about to burst. Garp ruined Marine's future with his own hands. Akainu could see the sly smile on Su Chen's lips. How come Garp, who was in the middle of a battle with Su Chen, didn't notice it? But because he was afraid that his fist would cause irreparable harm to Su Chen, he controlled the direction of his fist, which was why he noticed Su Chen's smile a little too late. When Garp realized that he might have fallen into some kind of scheme of Su Chen. Then I want to make some changes. It's too late. Just at this moment, Su Chen finally moved, a mysterious energy fluctuation. It directly takes Su Chen as the origin. Suddenly released towards the surrounding space. Open black lens bracket break all laws close black lens bracket sage art echoes. Launch. In an instant, within a 1 kilometer radius. All devil fruit abilities, hockey abilities. All destroyed. Aside, Akainu is always ready to support Su Chen. He looked at his body in astonishment. Akainu could feel the connection between himself and the magma fruit. In that instant just now, the connection was completely cut off. His body, which was originally transforming into magma, could no longer use any of the magma fruit abilities. Used to detect the observation hockey of Su Chen and Garp's battle. It is also no longer available. It's as if there has never been any domineering power in the world, and it's all just a fantasy. There was a flash of surprise in Akainu's eyes. This is what Momosuke Gion described in the report. Is this Su Chen's ability of the sealing fruit? It's indeed a powerful pervert. If it were used on the battlefield, it would be a sudden attack by the enemy. I'm afraid the enemy will suffer a devastating blow in an instant. And Garp in the middle of the fight. The emotion at this moment is the same shock. He discovered that his fist had been covered with armed color domineering for a long time. It disappeared in an instant. It's like the fire was extinguished by water. The power of his originally powerful black iron fist suddenly decreased by 90%. Iron fist speed also dropped a lot, although I was surprised. But there was also a curve at the corner of Garp's mouth. Good boy. Has the control over the fruit's ability become so detailed? Not bad. But just doing this is not enough to resolve your own attacks. Garp draws on his rich combat experience. We can roughly guess the effect of Su Chen's devil fruit. Sealed his own devil fruit ability and domineering. In the same way, Su Chen's domineering aura will also disappear without a trace. Lost the domineering blessing. The side that suffered the most damage to its combat effectiveness should be Su Chen's side. Garp's fist swung with more force. Anyway, I don't have the blessing of armed color domineering, so I might as well give this kid a good punch. Let him know the dangers of society. But the next moment, Garp made an unexpected discovery. He swung his fist towards Su Chen. It was actually covered with a hint of warmth. Take a closer look. Isn't this Su Chen's palm? Su Chen's palm was already wrapped around Garp's fist. In an instant, he controlled Garp's fist in his palm. And on Su Chen's fist. That is the dark energy that represents armament hockey. Not a single vestige of retreat. Su Chen had already grasped Garp's fist firmly. Then he activated Tian Xing Jian with all his strength. Su Chen was ready to throw Garp out. A shoulder throw. As long as he successfully throws Garp out, Su Chen will be able to take advantage of Garp's defensive gap. Launch a devastating attack on him. At this time, Garp understood instantly. Su Chen's domineering power will not be affected by the sealed fruit. The astonishment in his heart increased again. Able to seal the opponent's fruit and domineering at the same time. It won't limit your abilities. What a heaven-defying ability. In this way, in a real battle, Su Chen released the power of his fruit so suddenly. Isn't it like using cannons to attack primitive people on the battlefield? I thought so in my heart. Garp didn't notice. Because of the shock in my heart. In addition, his domineering aura was sealed. He accidentally failed to control his strength. Veins bulged on the fist aimed at Su Chen. Although Garp's fist is no longer wrapped in domineering aura. But that body had been strengthened by being immersed in the domineering aura for many years. It has already become a monster. In an instant, the sonic boom sound of compressed air suddenly rang out. Above the ground, the muddy ground, which was already broken and tattered, suddenly collapsed 30 centimeters. This punch, Garp used 100% of his strength. Dark lightning spread all around. Although it doesn't have the power of domineering, it's definitely a terrifying punch. Right now, Su Chen, who grabbed Garp's fist, noticed something was wrong. Didn't this old guy say that he was going to train to find out the basics? Why does it feel like Garp really intends to kill me? Su Chen felt a terrifying energy bursting out from Garp's body. His heart sank and he cried out that something was wrong. But at this moment, he was in the stage of exerting force, and there was no way to forcibly interrupt the action and create a safe distance between him and Garp. Akainu on the side. I saw Garp actually tried to kill Su Chen. He immediately wanted to rush in and block Garp's attack. But Akainu's connection between the fruit and hockey was cut off. But he didn't react and was stunned for a moment. It was this moment of distraction that caused Akainu to miss the best opportunity to rescue Su Chen. His eyes were bloodshot. My teeth are about to break. Garp, do you want to kill Su Chen? Akainu yelled at me. Garp also came back to his senses at this moment. Oops, he cursed loudly. But his terrifying punch had already been fully prepared. Years of muscle memory allowed Garp to directly attack Su Chen in front of him. Want to withdraw this punch? It can't be done anymore. Garp watched his punch. It hit Su Chen. Suddenly, a terrifying shock wave burst out from between the two people. Su Chen's arms were wrapped in dark domineering aura. At this moment, it actually began to crack inch by inch. Seeing this, Su Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart. It is obvious that he has already fully activated Heaven's movement of power and breaking all laws. It also has an additional 2-color domineering blessing. But the problem is that my physical fitness is still too weak. Face these truly top-notch warriors in the pirate world. Even if their fruits and domineering aura were sealed, they still unleashed their strength in battle. Still like a monster. Make yourself unbearable. The same was true of his previous battle with Whitebeard. If it weren't for Tian Xing Jian's ability to quickly heal injuries, I'm afraid I don't even have a chance to withstand 3 attacks from Whitebeard. Just as Su Chen was thinking in his heart, cracks gradually spread across his body. Finally, it enveloped Su Chen's entire body. The next moment, Su Chen's body seemed to be stuffed with a bomb. The whole body exploded with a bang. Blood splattered everywhere. This made Garp and Akainu both freeze in place. In their eyes, at this moment, an emotion that had not appeared in decades appeared. It's the emotion of fear. Garp couldn't control his strength. It turned out to be Su Chen, the future Marine, who regarded the warring states as a treasure. Killed by mistake. Chapter 47. Garp blames himself and plans to resign and return to Donghai to retire. Tick, tick. Bright red blood dripped from Garp's fist. There was an indescribable emotion flashing in Garp's eyes. It's self-blame and fear. His pupils trembled uncontrollably. I actually tried to kill that young boy Su Chen. Why would I do this? Is it because I haven't fought for too long? Or, am I the same as Whitebeard? People are getting old. Garp didn't know. He lost his balance and sat down on the ground. Looking at Su Chen's broken flesh and blood on the ground, he only felt a sense of powerlessness rising in his heart. He is indeed a marine hero, and his combat power is so high that he can be ranked among the best even in the entire world government. But no matter how strong my fighting ability is, it is also impossible to revive a dead person who was blown up by one punch. The smell of blood coming from the nostrils. Akainu also came back to his senses at this moment. He looked at his hands. At this moment, the magma fruit and domineering power once again established a connection with himself. Su Chen's ability to seal the fruit has failed. He looked in front of him and saw Su Chen's flesh in pieces. Akainu's pupils shrank to the size of a pinhole in an instant. He walked forward. He simply grabbed Garp, who was sitting on the ground with a lifeless look in his eyes, by the collar. Akainu said coldly, "Why, I don't know. I really didn't think that this guy could actually launch an attack that would threaten me." My body started moving on its own, and by the time I reacted, it was too late. Garp was grabbed by the collar by Akainu, and he spoke subconsciously. But Garp soon realized himself at this moment. There shouldn't be any excuses at all. After a brief silence, Garp took a deep breath. My problem, I will report this matter to Zongguo personally. As for the future, I will resign from my position as Lieutenant General and return to the East China Sea to retire. Akainu narrowed his eyes slightly. Killing intent surged throughout his body. Su Chen's death, for Akainu. The blow is not small. Just when the two of them were silent. On the ground beside a location that Akainu and Garp didn't notice, Su Chen's head was stuck in the mud on the ground. Only the back of his head, the size of a palm, was exposed on the ground. At the break in the neck, the fluorescence spread rapidly. This moment, Su Chen suddenly opened his eyes. Fortunately, the mud covered the ground and blocked Su Chen's eyes. Otherwise, a head suddenly opened its eyes. That look was absolutely terrifying. Consciousness returns. Su Chen hurriedly felt his current condition. Although he was in a near-death state again. Fortunately, the head was not seriously injured. Able to regain consciousness in a short time. As long as consciousness can be restored, the Sage Art echoes in the 10 days end can be activated. A thought came to my mind. The echo of Tian Xing Jian is the full release. Su Chen's body was rapidly absorbing the void energy around him, which was then gathered into a physical body to help Su Chen recover. The observation hockey is slowly released. Su Chen saw clearly the current situation on the training ground. Akainu was grabbing Garp's collar, asking why he wanted to kill him. To this, Su Chen also expressed helplessness. He really didn't expect it. Garp, whose domineering aura was sealed, turned out to be even stronger than Whitebeard in terms of physical strength. Even if he used the two abilities of Heaven's Movement Echo and Armament Hockey to strengthen his body. Garp's punch shattered his body in an instant. What a pervert. This is when Garp only used the brute force of his body and did not use his terrifying moves. If Garp uses his two killer moves, Seabed Fall or Galaxy Impact, I guess my whole body would be turned into powder. Not to mention the brain, even a few brain cells. I'm afraid there won't be any left. Until then, my own consciousness will surely dissipate along with it. In that case, Tian Xing Jian would definitely not be able to start. Thinking of this, Su Chen still felt a little scared. If you engage in a battle later, you cannot put yourself in danger by relying on your infinite self-healing ability. Bang! Su Chen was attracted by the sound. He used his observation haki to follow the direction of the voice. It was Akainu Kasasaki who slapped Garp. To this, Su Chen said that he was not the kind of person who would take revenge for any slight. He is very broad-minded, so naturally he won't have any prejudice against Garp just because Garp blew up his body. I was thinking this in my heart. Su Chen slowed down the speed of Tian Xing Jian's recovery of his body. Several minutes passed. When Su Chen found out, Akainu slapped Garp 3 times, making his face red and swollen. He no longer had the thought of slapping anyone and was ready to call his men to deal with the aftermath of the training ground. Su Chen then controlled his fully recovered body and crawled out from the ground. Su Chen, aren't you dead? Akainu and Garp are both top combat forces among Marines. Su Chen controlled his body and crawled out of the mud on the ground. Naturally, it cannot escape their eyes. The moment the sound was made, the observation haki they exuded directly locked onto Su Chen's position. When they found out that the person who made the noise was Su Chen, Garp and Akainu, the expression on his face became extremely exaggerated. Their eyes were wide open and their mouths were so full of shock that they seemed to be able to hold a watermelon. That expression was as if he had seen a ghost. Oh, no, in the world of pirates, there is a user like Brook who has the ability of the Yomiuri fruit. Logically speaking, Akainu and Garp would not show such shocked expressions if they saw a ghost. After all, they just saw it with their own eyes. Su Chen's body. Under Garp's attack, it cracked inch by inch. Finally it exploded, with blood and internal organs shattered into pieces. The scene was extremely bloody. Although Po Wanfa temporarily sealed their ability of seeing and hearing, making them unable to sense Su Chen's vitality loss. But Garp and Akainu were 100% certain. At that time, Su Chen was definitely dead and could not die anymore. It's because I'm sure Su Chen is dead. Now Su Chen was seen emerging from the ground. Akainu and Garp were the only two people who temporarily lost the ability to control their facial expressions. To be honest, Garp, as Luffy's grandfather in the One Piece world, can also be considered a half-comedian. So Su Chen thought it was normal for him to show this exaggerated look of shock. But Akainu has always been a cold and domineering person. Showing this appearance, the lethality was still too great for Su Chen. After being shocked for 2 or 3 seconds, Akainu and Garp quickly realized that they had lost control of their facial expressions. Akainu, in particular, immediately returned to his original silent and cold expression. Boy, are you okay? Are you feeling unwell? If so, I'll take you to the Marine Infirmary right now. Don't hide it. If you feel a little uncomfortable, you can tell me. I'll take you to the infirmary. It won't take more than half a minute. Garp looked around Su Chen. I am very worried that Su Chen is now strong on the outside but weak on the inside and may collapse at any time. You know, when Garp was training Ace and Luffy, he didn't treat them as human beings at all. It would never be like this now, where they were afraid that something might go wrong with Su Chen. Chapter 48 Su Chen falls into the trap. Akainu is better than the old yin. You mean, this is the self-healing ability that was born after your fruit awakened? After Su Chen fooled him. Garp said, still a little unconvinced. But after all, the facts are right in front of us. Su Chen did appear in front of Garp and Akainu in an almost resurrected state. No wonder Momoshiki said in the report that you were able to hold off Whitebeard. I originally thought she was bragging. After all, we know very well how strong that guy is. You are definitely not able to resist him now. Now it seems that you used this regeneration ability, combined with the fruit and haki that sealed Whitebeard, to delay him. In that case, your combat capability needs to be re-evaluated. Akainu on the side touched his chin. Said to Su Chen. Garp, this old man is very ruthless. Let me try it with you. General Akainu, before we fight, I have a request. If it's not excessive, you can ask for it. Akainu took out another cigar from his pocket and started smoking. He rarely has such a tolerant attitude towards someone. I hope to have a real fight with you, General. If the strength I have shown can reach the level of an admiral, I hope you will recommend me to the Sengoku Fleet Admiral to become the 4th Admiral of the Marine. Su Chen stated his purpose. After all, his goal from the beginning to the end was to go to the residence of the Tianlong people to sign in. If you cannot become a general, there is basically no legitimate way to enter Marijoa. Su Chen had also thought about sneaking in. But the Knights of God are in charge inside, and it is almost impossible to sign in under their noses. I was surprised to hear that Su Chen actually wanted me to recommend Su Chen to Zhang Guo as the 4th General of Marine. Akainu was very satisfied. Good. Very good. My heart is full of marine injustice. This guy really suits my taste. However, Akainu did not directly agree to Su Chen's request. Instead, he put forward his conditions. It's not easy to be a marine admiral, you know that, kid. To be in this position, in addition to strength, life experience is also very important. But since you asked me this, I can agree to it. Recommend you to Zhongguo. The prerequisite is that you have to defeat me in a duel. Are you sure, kid? Akainu looked in Su Chen's direction and took a puff of his cigar. If you want to refuse someone, just say so directly. You also want Su Chen to defeat you in a duel. Isn't this a little too funny? Garp on the side mocked Akainu. It's obvious that he thinks Akainu is too bullying. It turns out that Su Chen has to defeat himself in order to have the opportunity to be recommended as a marine admiral. Even Su Chen thought this condition was very tricky. After all, in the original plot of One Piece, in order to compete for the position of Marine Fleet Admiral, Akainu and Aokiji fought for 10 days and 10 nights before the winner was decided. This shows how powerful Akainu is. It is extremely difficult to defeat Akainu, who has incredible lethality among the three generals, in a duel. But Su Chen did not give up. Under the surprised gazes of Garp and Akainu, Su Chen nodded and agreed to Akainu's request. It's a deal then, Akainu. Interesting. Akainu smiled and threw the cigar away. The aura all over my body began to rise. Already prepared for battle. Boy, you really suit my temperament very well. Bring it on. Look at you now, how much of a threat can you bring to me? Su Chen brushed the dust off his body. He stood there calmly. Face Akainu, one of the three marine admirals. Su Chen knew that this battle would be very difficult. However, in order to sign in at Mary Hoya, Su Chen was already prepared to fight. I saw the two kinds of domineering, armed color domineering and observation color domineering, slowly condensing around Su Chen. This formed Momoshiki Gion's unique domineering realm. Garp jumped back a few times and moved away from the two men. He needed to guard against the aftermath of the fight between the two. Affects the soldiers of the marine headquarters. The battle is about to begin. Akainu took the lead. He just waved his right hand. A naginata by the wall of the training base suddenly appeared in Akainu's hand as if it had some kind of induction. Akainu knows. Su Chen's ability conceal all domineering and fruit abilities. The magma fruit is completely useless. Naturally he chose to use weapons. Few people know that before Akainu became a fruit power user. Is a swordsman. In terms of swordsmanship, he is no worse than anyone else in the marine headquarters. Seeing this, Su Chen also used the same move. A sword similar to Momoshiki's Konpira appeared in Su Chen's hand. Both sides intend to use weapons to decide the outcome. After all, what Su Chen copied was the strength of Momoshiki Gion, so he was naturally good at using swords. Come on, boy, show me your skills. Akainu smiled and then swung the naginata in his hand. He assumed a fighting stance. Su Chen didn't answer. Instead, he drew out the long sword from the scabbard. The armed color domineering quickly wrapped around the blade. The blade of this ordinary marine training sword quickly turned into a non-reflective black. A strong aura of killing emerged from it. Su Chen slowly walked towards Akainu. Although the speed was not fast, every step seemed to be stepping on Akainu's chest. This brought a lot of pressure to Akainu. This kid is really a monster. Even though he didn't do anything, it felt like he was going to strike at any moment and deal a fatal blow to Akainu. Garp, who was standing by, saw Su Chen's actions and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. He has also seen many swordsmen. He even fought against Mihawk, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and red-haired one of the 4 emperors. Although the aura Su Chen revealed at this moment was not as strong as the other two. But he is clearly better than most swordsmen in the world. The distance between Su Chen and Akainu is still getting closer. Just now, the two were more than 100 meters apart. And now, there are only less than 50 meters left. Su Chen's progress was still slow. It can even be said to be very slow. He never made a move, and the pitch-black sword in his hand just hung on the ground. It seems that there will be no attack on Akainu. And watching Su Chen gradually walking towards him. Akainu frowned slightly. Although Su Chen sealed his domineering power and fruit, it also brought him considerable pressure. But Akainu could never guess. What exactly does Su Chen want to do? Finally, the distance between the two has been shortened to the final 10 meters. This distance, even without using any additional abilities, both sides have already entered each other's attack range. But Su Chen's hand holding the long sword was still lowered. It seems like he has no intention of making a move at all. The distance between the two continued to shorten. Now there is less than 5 meters left. Akainu never thought that Su Chen was just a young boy in his 20s. It can actually give me such great psychological pressure. Finally, Akainu waited no longer. He chose to take direct action. The naginata in his hand was swung at a high speed, causing the air to emit a sharp whistling sound. Although his domineering power is sealed, Akainu's strength is terrifying. This knife is quite powerful. It chopped directly towards Su Chen's chest. Although he hadn't held a knife for a long time, Akainu's knife was extremely fast at this moment. Swish. The sharp knife directly cut open the flesh on Su Chen's chest. I thought it was Akainu who just made the move, but the knife had already hit Su Chen's chest. There was no dragging of feet. You can say that. This knife was executed beautifully. A huge hole suddenly appeared in Su Chen's chest. Even the organs in the body are exposed at this moment. Blood splattered everywhere. If it were an ordinary person, he would have suffered such horrific injuries from being slashed by Akainu. Even if one can save his life, he will suffer serious damage. But Su Chen's expression remained extremely calm. There were even wounds on the chest and shattered bones. None of these made Su Chen's expression change at all. With this attack, Akainu caused horrific injuries to Su Chen. But seeing Su Chen's calm expression, Akainu couldn't help but prepare to attack him again. And at this time, Su Chen finally moved. His right hand was hanging down all the time. He calmly and powerfully placed the knife in his hand against Akainu's neck. The blade covered with armament hockey is extremely sharp. A direct cut was made on Akainu's neck. The corner of Su Chen's mouth, at this time. He revealed a faint smile. Akainu, you lose. I lost. Akainu heard Su Chen's words. I couldn't help but shook my head. Su Chen, this time it's your turn to be tricked. Akainu was still talking. Under Su Chen's feet, the soil on the ground shattered instantly. At some point, a hole several dozen meters long appeared in front of Akainu. There is only a thin layer of soil covering it. It looked like a trap. Su Chen fell into the trap. Chapter 49 shocked everyone. Su Chen defeated Akainu fairly and won the recommendation position for Marine General. Garp not far away. I have been following the battle between the two sides from beginning to end. So, he understood what had happened. Before Su Chen used the method of breaking all things. Akainu is the guy who has already used the magma fruit to position himself in front of him. A pit more than 10 meters in diameter was burned out. Akainu did it so secretly that it was completely undetectable even on the ground. All I could feel was that the soil on the ground was slightly burnt. Hey, what a jerk. You say you are righteous every day. Garp chuckled. He saw Su Chen fall into the trap. Fallen into Akainu's trap. This time Su Chen is in a bad mood. The focus returns to the battle between Akainu and Su Chen. Su Chen's feet were empty. The whole person fell into the big hole of the trap in an instant. Akainu seized the opportunity. Choose to beat the dog when it's down. He spun the naginata in his hand twice, then stabbed it directly at Su Chen's heart. Stabbed in the heart by Akainu in the trap. Then Su Chen was completely defeated in this battle. Su Chen watched as Akainu's naginata quickly enlarged in his sight. Of course he understood this truth. The right hand holding the long knife poked directly at the dirt wall beside him. Forcing means changing the direction of the body's movement. I narrowly avoided Akainu's naginata attack. Did you escape? Just when Su Chen thought he had avoided Akainu's attack. Only then did he discover his left hand. It was actually chopped off by Akainu's naginata. Akainu is worthy of being one of the 3 great admirals of Marine. The means of attack were indeed extremely brutal. Su Chen's mind moved. The wound glowed. The injuries on the left hand and chest recovered quickly. But Akainu didn't give Su Chen any chance to breathe. Another slash was made. Su Chen's left arm that had just recovered. He was beheaded again. Boy, if that's all you have. Then you still have a long way to go before you can become the 4th Admiral of Marine. Akainu saw Su Chen's left hand recover again. There was no choice but to continue chasing deeper into the trap. After all, he doesn't have the ability of the hockey fruit now. If Su Chen used the strategy of exchanging injuries for injuries again, in the cave trap, you will be at a disadvantage. Cave underground. Su Chen's body fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, a hint of solemnity finally appeared in his eyes. Really, in the world of One Piece, none of those who can become top-level masters are easy for me to deal with now. Whitebeard, Garp, including Akainu, who he is currently fighting against. Even if it means sealing their fruit abilities and domineering power. It will already pose a huge threat to myself. Po Wan Fa and Tian Xing Jian are very powerful. But when faced with these real monsters, still not enough. If you want to defeat them, you must be prepared accordingly. Su Chen thought so in his heart. Push off the ground. The whole person jumped out of the big pit. Su Chen looked into Akainu's eyes. At this moment, a hint of murderous intent finally appeared. Very good, that's the look. Come on, let me see what you're really capable of. Akainu sneered and swept the naginata in his hand directly. Attacked towards Su Chen. Su Chen faced Akainu and swung his sword. He tilted his head and avoided Akainu's fatal knife attack. But there was a huge cut on the body. If an ordinary person suffered this kind of trauma, he would definitely not survive. But fortunately, Su Chen possesses the power of heaven's movement. It's even more powerful than the Tian Xing Jian used by Zhang Shan in 10 Days End. Self-healing ability starts quickly. Fluorescent light flickered in the huge wound. Then the injury recovered rapidly. During the wound recovery process, Su Chen's pace never stopped. He was moving at a very fast speed in the direction of Akainu. The black long sword in his hand was swung out suddenly, pointing directly at Akainu's neck. When Akainu's Naginata wielding speed is extremely fast, directly blocked Su Chen's attack, although its power is not as strong as Whitebeard's. But compared to Whitebeard's powerful swings, Akainu's Naginata is even faster. Without using observation haki, it would be difficult to detect Akainu's next attack. But Su Chen didn't care. Now I have become closer to Akainu. Then there is no need to pull it apart. Now Su Chen has realized that he has to fight against this group of top experts. With the two current capabilities, if you think about retreating unscathed, you will never be able to defeat the opponent. Anyway, we have the support of heavenly movement. As long as consciousness remains, it can be recovered forever. The first one to become exhausted must be Akainu. With a hissing sound, Akainu's Naginata directly pierced Su Chen's neck. A large amount of blood gushed out directly from the artery. This directly deprived Su Chen of the ability to speak. But Su Chen didn't care. It was as if he was not the one who was injured. The figure suddenly moved forward. The Naginata opened a bigger wound on his neck. You kid. Akainu saw Su Chen was so cruel. He didn't even care about his own injuries. His eyes also narrowed suddenly. Tell the truth. It has been several decades since Akainu joined the Marine. He had seen many guys who were not afraid of death in battle. But people like Su Chen are afraid that they will die slowly. This is my first time seeing Akainu. After all, others are exchanging 10 points of their own injuries for 7 points of your own injuries. And what about Su Chen? As long as it can cause 1% of damage to himself, Su Chen is willing to fight for it. A large amount of blood gushed out of Su Chen's body as if it was free. It turned out to be Akainu who was going to fight him directly. Everyone turned into a bloody man. Su Chen used this fighting method that completely disregarded life and death. It actually started to suppress Akainu. After all, Su Chen is the new generation force of Marine in the future. This was just a fight between the two sides. It was impossible to really kill Su Chen. If Su Chen was really killed, Zhongguo would probably kill himself first. Therefore, although Akainu could quickly cause damage to Su Chen, he could not keep up with the recovery speed of Tian Xing Jian in Su Chen's body. The battle lasted for 3 full hours. Marine training ground. Within a 1-kilometer radius. They are all covered with Su Chen's blood. Su Chen's whole body was glowing with light, and he attacked Akainu frantically without fear of death. Akainu, who originally had the upper hand, was now in a 3-hour fight. Gradually began to change to the downwind side. When there was another crisp sound. The Naginata in Akainu's hand. Interrupted by Su Chen's punch. Akainu lost his weapon, the middle gate is wide open. Su Chen seized the opportunity and received a dark iron fist. The iron fist wrapped in armed color domineering. One punch down. Akainu flew backwards more than 10 meters. Finally fell to the ground. Su Chen walked over slowly. The whole body is flashing fluorescent light. In just a few seconds, Su Chen's injuries had completely recovered. Su Chen once again placed the sword against Akainu's neck. Akainu, this time, do you have any backup plan? Su Chen said lightly. Covered in blood, he looked like a devil from hell. With a fierce and bloody smell, Su Chen held him on the neck. Instead of showing any anger, Akainu burst into laughter. Good boy, I, Kasasuke, recognize you. You defeated me fair and square. I lost. I will keep my promise and recommend you to Sengoku to become the 4th General of Marine. Chapter 50. Warring States. Marine Admiral Qualifications. I think Su Chen has enough. Marine Training Ground. On top of thick alloy steel plate. 3 figures stood there. Take a closer look. These 3 people are clearly the highest strength of Marine headquarters. 2 of the 3 great generals, Kizaru Akainu, and Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Previously, when Garp and Akainu started fighting, they had already heard the news and came over. But later it was discovered that Akainu and Garp planned to test Su Chen. That's why they didn't show up on their own initiative. He chose to observe Su Chen's situation from a distance. When I saw Garp take action for the first time, he directly defeated Su Chen's body. Both Kizaru and Akainu wanted to rescue them as soon as possible. Because they can all feel it. Although Su Chen was severely injured at that time, he still had the breath of life. But just when they were about to take action, they were directly stopped by the Warring States Fleet Admiral. After all, Sengoku was the one who overheard the conversation between Su Chen and Momoshiki Gion. Knowing that Su Chen possesses heaven-defying self-healing abilities. Sure enough, Su Chen quickly came back to life. It immediately shocked the 2 people present, Akainu and Kizaru. It's really scary. If this kid wasn't one of ours, it would be a headache. In this sea, I have never seen anyone with fruit abilities who has such an exaggerated self-healing ability. The broken body can recover quickly, so it's no wonder Su Chen was able to delay Whitebeard. Powerful self-healing ability, plus the ability to seal domineering energy and fruits. Fleet Admiral, I think this guy Su Chen is indeed qualified to become the 4th General of Marine. It's just right, it can also make my work much easier. Huang Yuan said this about Su Chen. He believes that Su Chen is very suitable to serve as Marine's fourth general. It's not just that Su Chen's fruit ability is abnormal, it's no less than Whitebeard's shock fruit and Kaido's fish fruit, which are top devil fruit levels. Even more because, after Su Chen joined, his burden in Marine was much lighter. You can catch fish better. Everyone sees that say domineering is not weak. Although the distance from Su Chen and others is far away, it is of course very easy to hear what Su Chen and Akainu are saying clearly. Naturally, they heard Su Chen's words about wanting to become a Marine general. After thinking for a moment, Warring States Fleet Admiral said solemnly. Actually, I have had some private considerations about recruiting other generals. Relying only on you three generals these past few years has indeed been a bit overwhelming. Across the entire Red Earth continent, there are many powerful people who are interested in joining our Marine force. You should have heard of a few names. Like Fujitora, Green Bull, something like that. They are all very strong. Although they are not as strong as you, they are all stronger than the level of Associate General. From the perspective of improving Marines' high-end combat effectiveness, it is naturally better to recruit them to become Marine generals. But I still need to put a question mark on their loyalty to Marine. On the battlefield, if high-end combat effectiveness suddenly turns against us, it will be a fatal blow to us. Warring States paused. He thought back. Momoshiki Gion was among the previously submitted reports. Special note, when fighting against Whitebeard, Su Chen not only sealed the power and domineering power of the Whitebeard fruit, but also restored Momoshiki Gion's own strength. If this situation is true, then Su Chen's status among the Marine forces can be raised even higher. Sitting on the general's throne, Sengoku Fleet Admiral thinks there is no problem at all. Even said, 100 green cows Fujitora. Their role on the battlefield is not as exaggerated as that of Su Chen. But what is unclear now is how much area Su Chen's so-called sealing ability can cover. Duration, how long can it last? These are things that must be considered. Thinking of this, Fleet Admiral Zhang Guo continued. My original idea was to let Su Chen become a Marine Vice Admiral and train with Momoshiki and the others for a period of time. But Whitebeard's recent movements make me very uneasy. So I do intend to have the grandson of Chief of Staff Crane undergo an assessment to see if he is qualified to be a Marine Admiral. Kizaru and Aokiji were a little surprised to hear that Sengoku Fleet Admiral actually intended to make Su Chen the 4th Admiral of Marine. Fleet Admiral, please let Su Chen serve as the 4th Admiral of Marine. I am against it. During the Warring States period, Fleet Admiral and Kizaru both expressed their support for Su Chen to become the Admiral. Aokiji voted against it. Both Kizaru and Sengoku were a little surprised. They looked at Aokiji, wanting to know why Aokiji thought so. Aokiji was silent, as if he was thinking about what to say. He looked not far away. That's where Akainu Garp and Su Chen are. At this moment, Su Chen was fighting with Akainu. The battle situation is intense. After thinking for a moment, Aokiji said to Sengoku and Kizaru. Su Chen is indeed qualified to be a general, but I don't think he is suitable to be a general now. The throne of Admiral Marine is indeed enviable. But only you and I know how many dangers we have to face in this position. The potential that Su Chen has shown now is far beyond the rest of us. I believe that in time, Su Chen will be able to surpass Mr. Garp and become the Roger of our Marine faction. It is definitely not a wise choice to expose Su Chen to the public now. I think that he must at least have the strength to defeat a general-level warrior alone before letting Su Chen take on the position of Marine General. Aokiji's concerns were not without reason. The potential that Su Chen has revealed now is truly too incredible. If it were exposed to the public now, the pirates and the Revolutionary Army would definitely find ways to destroy a rising marine genius like Su Chen. And, Aokiji actually wanted to say that the public's perspective also includes the Celestial Dragons. If the Tianlong people think that the potential revealed by Su Chen is too strong, they may feel that Su Chen is difficult to control. Who knows, maybe he could just deal with Su Chen in secret. Now let Su Chen follow Garp and become an inconspicuous Marine Lieutenant General. At present, it is the most sensible choice. And Kizaru listened to Aokiji. Shrug. Aokiji, you really like to talk nonsense. Isn't Kasusuke fighting this brat right now? If he doesn't defeat Kasusuke, Su Chen won't even have a chance to be recommended. If we can defeat Akainu, then as you said, Su Chen will have the strength to defeat a powerful Marine Admiral alone. Kizaru paused here and took out a cigarette from his pocket. I lit it and took a puff. Then he spoke. Besides, this kid has to walk his own path. No matter how well you protect him, what's the point? A few hours passed in a flash. When he saw Su Chen put the blade against Akainu's neck again. Akainu laughed and admitted defeat. Sengoku glanced in Aokiji's direction, a playful smile on his face. Aokiji, it looks like this kid is qualified enough.